Oh, yeah. Can you dig it? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's Friday night, Untethered Live on a chill stream. I'm your host, Jake Johnson. Tonight, we're going to talk about what's coming up soon and have possibilities discussions. That means you get to help me decide what I'm going to do next. That's the way it's going to be. How is everybody doing? How's your week been? It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I'm telling you what. It's been a hell of a week. A good one, but a hell of a one. Amanda says, hi, Untethered Live family. Good to see you all. Happy Friday. I hope everybody's doing good this week. Hope everybody had a good week. And how are you tonight, Jake? Fantastic. Look at me. I got beauty dripping off of me. My mustache is tingling. I'm so excited I can barely contain myself. Aaron, what's up, buddy? Nice to see you. How you doing? How's your girl? Aaron says, I see Jake people. Me too. Weird. That's strange. Are you looking at Jake people too? I got a nice hot cup of coffee here. That's always wonderful. Don't you want to have a cup of coffee with me? If so, go to the kitchen, pour yourself a nice hot cup of coffee, and let's get this party rolling. If you don't have a cup, though, you can look down in the description. There's one there. You can get one there. I recommend the first one. It has my face on it, but there are new options down there. Some of them are stainless steel tumblers, the big ones and the little ones. They got locking lids, Untethered Live Bible Study logo on the front, all my platforms on the back. They look good on your coffee table. And if you chug them at somebody, they'll leave a mark. So get one while supplies last, sport. Also, like, subscribe, share, support, join, and super chats are available in the chat box, or hit that Cash App $JakeJohnsonband, where I get all of that, and I appreciate that very much. One more thing. If you'd like to hang out, get to know everybody outside of the YouTuberverse, outside of their oppressive little fingers and me misrepresenting everything you read, go over to facebook.com/UntetheredLive family. The link is in the chat. It's a great place to hang out, share pictures, videos, text, and chats, and just otherwise hang out with one another. So go check that out. Now, Aaron, you get the gold star for being first in chat. It looks good on you, sir. Amanda says, here's your gold star, and Heller Aaron. Aaron says, here's a gold star back for the band hammer. Nice. She deserves it. She is the star of my world, so that's why she never gets one, because she is one. Aaron says, what's up? Not a whole lot, buddy. You see it. Struggling and striving and tickling and diving. That's the only way I know to do it. Aaron says, chemo went well for her this time. That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. That's a terrifying thing to have to go through, but she's got you by her side, and that is wonderful. Amanda says, thanks, man. How's your girl doing? And how are you doing? How are you doing? That's what we want to know. How are you doing? Are you holding up? Are you doing all right? Do you need anything? Amanda says, that's good. Continued prayers for her. Always. Always prayers. How are you and Jake? Fantastic. A little headachy, but other than that, can't complain. It's hot, though. It's a hot day. It's one of those hot and muggy days. But I did get a wheelbarrow today out of nowhere. That was nice. I needed one of those. Just driving down the road, and I saw one sitting there and said, take me. So I did. Now I got a wheelbarrow. I had a wheelbarrow, but it was an old 70s wheelbarrow, and it was falling apart. Now I have a brand new one. So Valen says, hey, guys. Soph, nice to see you. Aaron says, hi, Soph. And Amanda says, we're good. Thank you for asking. And Amanda says, hi, Soph. And Aaron says, I am glad. Yes, sir. John H. is here. He says, how are you doing, everyone? Much love to you all. Hey, John. Nice to see you, buddy. How you feeling today? Amanda says, some of your platforms, too many to list. They won't fit. The major ones, the major platforms. I think all of them are there. You might be right, though. All of the big ones are there for sure on the back of the cup. Aaron says, hey, John. And Amanda says, hi, Nugget. And aw, I'm your star. Yes, you are. And a pain in my ass. But that's because stars are pointy. Amanda says, you're my star too. Heart exclamation point and starry eyes, or hearty eyes. Bill Bennett, what's up, buddy? He says, happy Friday, Untethered Live peeps. You guys rock. Hey, Bill, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Tickling and diving is what got that stash tingling. Right. That's right. Amanda says, hi, Bill. And LOL, Aaron. And John says, fantastic, Aaron. Prayers and hearts and your lady. And how's your lady? So Fallon says, I am. No, you're not. I am. And then So says, fantastic. Cool. Nice to see that. I'm glad you got a good forward personality. Aaron says, I don't need anything, Jank. I have a friend like you and the team, and it's a blessing. I feel the same way, Aaron. Thank you. And John says, doing okay. I had chemo today. What hurt is paying 8,000 pounds for it. That's ouch. Yeah, I bet that does hurt. And I'm sorry you got to go through that, John. Amanda says, you wouldn't have me any other way. Smiley faces with tears. Aaron says, I'm sorry, John. It's a beast. It is. It really is. But it's necessary, and if it works, power to you. I'm going to out-tough it if I ever get it. I'm not doing the chemo thing. The thing about me is that everybody in my family on both sides, all my uncles and aunts, my grandparents, my mom, my dad, they've all died of cancer. Every one of them. It's been circling me since day one. I never had a chance coming out of the gate. So I've decided to do the one thing that nobody else has done, and that is nothing. I'm just going to grit my teeth and take it like a man, and I'll see who's tougher. I bet I am. And Amanda says, that's nice, Aaron. We love you, man. And you're awesome. You are awesome. You come in clutch all the time, and that's fantastic. I appreciate that very much. But other than that, you're awesome. Amanda says, ouch, Nugget. That's a hefty price tag to have to pay for chemo. You don't have any kind of Medicaid system over there? I hear everybody talking about how good the medical system is over there. And surely there's some kind of service that can help you with that. So Fallon says, my mom has cancer too. Yeah, it's a prevalent thing in the world, and a lot of people are suffering from it. And it don't get easy. It gets tough. But I know firsthand what it can do. And I don't wish that on anybody. But we're all put here on this earth for a reason, and all we can do is try to achieve that reason before it's time to go. That's it. John says, cancer sucks. Prayers for your mom. Absolutely. So, for you doing all right? You hanging in there? You doing good at your job? Aaron says, I whooped it, and when I walked in, she said, I got to go kick some ass. You go, girl. What's her name, by the way? We're going to be talking about her. We need to know who we're talking to or about. I'd say she's got the right idea, though. Get tough. Christina. Nice. Well, you tell her that we said hello and that we're rooting for her. Absolutely. Maybe one day she'll come visit. She knows me? I don't think so. Maybe. I don't think I know any Christinas, but it's possible. Amanda says, good name. I have a niece named Christina. It is a good name. It has Christ in it. Aaron says, no, like the show. Oh, she knows the show. Oh, okay, cool. Well, anyway, tell her we said that we're praying for her, and we hope she's out there kicking ass. And so says, every Tuesday I do volunteer work. Nice. Every Tuesday I do actual work. And Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday, Monday. And then there's Tuesday again. She's waving at you. Hello, hello, hello. I didn't know she was listening to me. You go, girl. Don't let Aaron get away with nothing. Not nothing. You ride his ass like he needs it. Amanda says, hi, Christina. Welcome. You got a smiley face with breasticles and a wavy hand. So, Amanda says, I work every day too. Yep. Putting up with me is a full-time job. Sure is. I do volunteer work at the Salvos, says Soph. I don't know what the Salvos is, Soph. But it sounds like important work. I'm glad you're out there doing it. Aaron says, LOL, don't give her no excuses to ride, Jake. Right on. Got to keep you honest. Keep you straight. So what I'm doing, I made a decision to write a book because it's necessary. It's a thing that we all ask questions about, and I keep getting the same kinds of questions over and over again throughout my journey, and I've decided to write a book and solve that problem and offer it on Amazon or something. I'm going to self-publish. It's going to start as an ebook, and if I sell enough of those, I'll publish an actual book and sell those. And what it is, it's going to be vignettes. It's going to be little sections of different things in the Bible that people question, like the first paragraph of Genesis and what it means for the rest of the Bible. The timeline between Adam and Noah and the lifespans of all the people that came before Noah up to Noah, and then what happened afterwards. There's going to be a section included that has all the maps of all the places that the people went to, like, say, Abraham's journey when he left his house and went out into the world and eventually started a group of people that became the 12 tribes of Israel. Or like Jesus' ministry, where all he went. Or like when Joshua was leading the army into Canaan and wiping the place out. Or when the Israelites were taken out of Egypt and wandered for 40 years in the desert, where they went and how far they were from their destination the whole time and that sort of thing. Where Mount Sinai actually is. Those kind of maps. So there's going to be a big section of maps. I'm going to do a section on the 7 churches. I'm going to do a section on the disciples and the book of Daniel and the book of Revelations, things like that. And by the way, if you have any questions that need answering, now is the podcast to mention them because they're going to go in the book. Or if you have any suggestions or ideas that might make the book better, I'm just going to be working on it for the next year. And we're going to get it out probably the first of next year. Aaron says, Salvos is the Salvation Army. Got it. I understood. I didn't know that. They called it that. And John says, yep, Salvation Army. And so says, yep, that's correct. Got it. Bill Bennett says, people read books still? LOL. Yes, they do. They'll definitely read mine because it's going to be a great book. Amanda says, maps would have to be part of the prints. Maps won't work on an ebook. Yes, you can put maps in an ebook. Vera Lynn says, hello. Hey, Rachel, how you doing, sweetheart? Hope you're feeling well today. Nice to see you. Amanda says, LOL, Bill. I read lots of books, Bill. Amanda says, hi, Rachel. And Aaron says, I'm getting Amy her map Bible. Right on. You go, boy. Well, hang on there, because I'm writing a book about that very thing. You do the Bible, and I'll do the book. Amanda says, that's awesome, Aaron. And Aaron says, do the book, Jake. I'm doing it. Believe me. It needs to be done. And I have a bunch of little things that by themselves would be a good lecture or a good series of videos, like the 7 churches things. But I think if I compile all those little things together, I can make a pretty decent book out of it. And then it's just a matter of getting it published. Bill says, I guess books are for smart people or ones that are trying to get smart. I feel left out. Are you telling me you wouldn't buy my book if I had one out? That's hurtful, Bill. I don't care if you actually read it. Amanda says, books help you get smart, Bill. And that's true. Nobody starts out smart. They have to learn. I want a signed copy. That can be arranged. But you don't need to wait for my book for that. If you want a copy of my signature, I'll just send it to you. Book of Jake. Yeah. Yeah, I wish it was going to make me some money, but it probably won't. Nothing else I've done has made a whole lot of money, so I don't know why the book would. That ain't why I'm doing it anyway. It'd be nice if I made some money. It'd be nice if I could pay my bills. It'd be nice if I could buy groceries and things like that. But that's not what motivates me. What motivates me is saying what's in my head because I feel like it was given to me, because I've been thinking about this stuff all my life, even since I was a little child. And I don't feel like I earned that knowledge. I feel like it was built in, if that makes any sense. I did have to do a lot of studying, don't get me wrong. I did a lot of studying. I've been studying the better part of my life. But as young as I can remember, going back to childhood, I was thinking about the same stuff, It's like I came out questioning reality, I don't know why. But I feel like God gave me innate knowledge about some things that I don't have to try. It just pops out, Sometimes I can't even remember names, But when it comes to the Bible, the information is just there. I don't have to think about it. It just comes out. So that's a gift. That's not something I earned. So if God gave me that knowledge, the next question is why? Why would God give me that knowledge? Well, it certainly wouldn't be to sit on it and keep it for myself now, would it be? I believe he gave me that knowledge because I'm supposed to share it. And, tell other people that are seeking for that knowledge if they hadn't found it yet. And that's what I'm doing. Bill says, I've come to the conclusion I was never meant to have money. I feel rich in family. I guess that's better. Thank you, Jake, for what you do. It is better. I promise. I say this all the time, but I'll say it again for your benefit. Get on Google and Google up the top 5 richest men in the world, or 10. Go 10. Go 20. Doesn't matter. And just look at pictures of them. Just look at them in any situation. If there's a picture of them, go look at it. And tell me if you see a happy man amongst them. They look terrified. They look unhealthy. They look sweaty. They look scared. They look tattered. They look driven. Those aren't good qualities. This I know. It's not good to be so driven that you lose sight of what's important. And what's important is camaraderie, friendship, connection, people, love, honor, dignity, pride. Not that kind of pride, the other kind of pride. Family. That's what's important. And if you have that, then you have riches in spades. They tried to buy Jesus off. What should we do with this? He says, let me see that. They handed him the coin, and he looked at it, and he says, whose picture is that right there? They said, well, that's Caesar's. He tossed it back to him. He says, well, then render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. That's what you do with it. And Bill says, to tell the world. Exactly. That's what I think I'm supposed to do. I feel led to do that. So I'm doing it with the podcast, but it ain't reaching enough people. So I'm going to put a book out, see if it helps. And like I said, as many times as I've been in different places studying things, I've always come across the same set of questions. It's like everybody thinks the same thing. Everybody's questioning the same stuff. Why not just answer it and put a book out and say, here's the answer? You know, if you want it, all you got to do is get it. Here it is. Soph says, my favorite food is hash browns. Hash browns is my new favorite food. It's worth saying twice. I bet it is. Hash browns are delicious. What kind of hash browns? Like Waffle House hash browns, or like McDonald's hash browns, or like Bojangles hash browns? Because those are all three different kinds of hash browns. And Amanda says, yes, Soph, they're real good with bacon bits and cheese. Those are Waffle House. The kind I like are in a little patty. You get them from McDonald's and you just bite them. But I like the ones from Bojangles because they got onions in them, so it's a little bit different. John says, and being humble. Oh, well, I failed miserably at that, John. I'm not humble, not even a little bit. In fact, half the people that know me think I'm arrogant. I've heard that before anyway. I don't know if they're right, but I've heard that before. I'm not arrogant. Look it up in the dictionary. It's not me. But they think I am. And if you think it, then that's what you are. I mean, you're only as good as you're perceived to be. It doesn't matter what I think of me. What matters is what you think of me. Aaron says, I like them if they're homemade, hash browns. Right on. And if you could go to any Bible site, where would you go, Jake? Like location, you mean? I would, that's a good question. Obviously, I'd like to go to Golgotha, go to Jerusalem and check that place out. But Jerusalem is different than it was when Christ was there. There are some places that are still there, but most of the city has been built on top of what was Jerusalem when Jesus walked the ground. There's a lot of growth in there. Egypt, I'd love to go to Egypt. So those are two places I'd like to go. Amanda says, great question, Aaron. That is a good question. I would like to, I'd like to go, I don't know what the name of the place is, but if you look at a map, there's a body of water, and then Egypt is right above it. And it splits off into two like a set of fingers, right? If you're looking directly at the map, and then you got Canaan on one side, Egypt on the other side, Africa's down below it. I'd like to go there because there's 4 rivers that come together. 2 of them are dry. 2 of them still exist. And then they come together at the mouth of that body of water. And about, I don't know how many miles into that body of water is where they would meet up if they were still running. That's where the Garden of Eden was, because the Bible describes where it was, and the 2 rivers there's 4 rivers that come together, and where they come together is where Garden of Eden was, but it's now underwater. So I'd like to take a boat out there and go diving and just touch the ground. John says, only water tonight. Oh, yeah? Oh, that's good, I guess. Water's good for you. Location or place and time in the Bible, says Aaron. I would not want to live in those times. Not at all. I'm an indoor cat. I don't want to be horseback riding and sword fighting and cholera getting, and no. I just assume stay here and read about it. The Gulf of Suez. There you go. Soph Allen says, it's wintertime in Australia right now. It's 11 degrees outside. in Australia. Nice. Are you in Australia? Gulf of Aqaba. Yes, that might be it. It's where the Red Sea is anyway. Patty says, hello from Tennessee. Hello, Patty. How are you, sweet lady? I hope you're doing well. John says Mediterranean. I have to look at the map. I don't know exactly what the place is called, but I'll tell you when I look at a map. Amanda says, hi, Patty. And Aaron says, Aussie is beautiful. Yes, it is. Look for, if you want to look for the Euphrates River and follow the Euphrates River to where it ends in water. And then you'll also look for the Tigris and look where it ends in water. But then there's also the Pison and the Gibbon, and those two are dried. They're not there anymore. But their beds are still there. They're still visible from a satellite. But they're not there anymore. But those four rivers used to come together in a head at the mouth of a waterway. And that's where the Garden of Eden was. And I don't know if anybody else knows that. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talking about wondering where the Garden of Eden is. And I'm like, the Bible tells you where it is. It's right there. Why do you not believe it? It says it's right there. It's right there. It's just underwater now. Remember, we had a flood since then. Big one. Put a lot of water up here that wasn't here before. It's kind of amazing to me that people don't understand things like that. Like, where does the Temple of Solomon go? Well, it goes on the Dome of the Rock, right? No, it doesn't. That's not Herod's temple. That is a mosque. And the escarpment that it's built on is built by the Romans. That wasn't there in that period of time. That was a mountaintop. So it's down at the bottom of the mountain. Where? In Jerusalem. There's an empty field and a set of steps, and that's it. That's where it goes. And I know that. The rabbis don't seem to know that. I don't understand why they don't know that. The Bible tells you where it is. It says it's right across from where David was buried. Now, they buried him like across the street. So they know where David's tomb is. It's not marked because it was vandalized, but they know it was David's tomb because of antiquities. Just walk across the street. There it is. So things like that. Amanda says, hi, Patty. Aaron says, I read those. And Soph says, yes, I am in Australia. Nice. Well, good day, mate. Patty says, very well. I thank you. I would curtsy, but I'm sitting. Aaron says, it's both of those, Jake. Each our fingers. Right on. And Amanda says, Persian Gulf. It's one of the Gulfs. I don't know. John says, I think you're right, Amanda. It might be. It looks like a peace sign if you're looking at it from space, the river. It's like a big river, and then two little rivers come off of it. Amanda says, the river begins in eastern Turkey, where the Karasu and the Murat rivers coverage, and then courses down through the modern countries of Syria and Iraq before emptying into the Persian Gulf. Yes. And in the middle of that Persian Gulf is where the Garden of Eden used to be. Now, I can't prove this. I have no evidence of this whatsoever, but the Bible says that the Garden of Eden is guarded by an angel with a sword of fire. Write it down that I said so, that at some point they're going to discover a volcano or some lava source in the bottom of that river or in the bottom of that Gulf. I can't prove that, but my guess is you try to find the Garden of Eden, you'll get swallowed up by a volcano or something like it. Aaron says, to admit the truth is to admit God is real, so they have to hide it. Maybe. You might be right about that. You might be right about that, Aaron. I've thought that very same thing occasionally because people go out of their way. They bend over backwards to not say God. Like when people are looking at all the water damage all over the world, they're like, look at all of these dunes. It's like a river ran through here. They must have had a local flood too. I'm like, do you hear yourself? The Bible tells you that there was a large flood that covered the whole world. That's why there's water damage all over the whole world. It's not hard. It's like 1 + 1 = 2, and they just go out of their way not to see it. They're like walking by like this. I don't see it. John says, I wouldn't go at the moment. Warships are there now. Oh, I wouldn't go at all, but yes, most of the places that are in the Bible are in war-torn areas. For example, they found Noah's Ark. They've known about it since the 80s or since the 70s. But it's in the middle of a war zone right now, and you can't go study it. So they get to say, well, it might not be the Noah's Ark. Maybe it's just a boat-shaped rock layer. Yeah, the exact dimensions of Noah's Ark in the right place at the right time, but it's probably just a rock. Yeah. They know where Mount Sinai is. Mount Sinai is in Arabia. Right now it's behind fences, and if you crawl over that fence, you'll get shot because it's in a militarized zone. But there it is, and it has the pillars down at the bottom. It has the rock that split open where Noah fed all the people water by striking the rock. It's got cows carved into the 12 pillars that are at the bottom of the mountain. It's the place. It's in Arabia, but you can't go there. You might could find pictures of it online because there have been people that went there and got arrested, but they managed to smuggle out their cameras. But it seems to be that way. It seems to be that most of the places that are important are guarded or in some kind of war-torn area. It also strikes me as odd that we keep picking fights with those places so that they are war-torn areas. It's almost like our government knows some stuff they don't tell us. That's what I'm thinking. Go back and do a little bit of studying about the Gulf War. Remember the Gulf War, Desert Eagle and all that? One of the things that was going on during that time was the, whoever they were, the Sunnis or the Shiites, I don't remember who they were, but there was the people we were fighting against. They were going to religious places and blowing them up, like monuments and ancient buildings, and just obliterating them. There was a museum that had a bunch of antiquities in it that came from biblical era, blew it off the face of the earth. I had to do some digging to find out because they didn't even mention it. They mentioned that it was happening. They blew up a museum, but they didn't mention what was in the museum. I went and did some digging, and I found out it's all biblical antiquities. They're blowing up biblical locations. Why? Why would they do that? Well, if you hear them say it, they're trying to get rid of their false deities so everybody will worship Muhammad or whatever it is, whoever they worship, Allah, whatever it is. Why would you, I worship God. I don't blow up satanic churches, Why would you blow up something from antiquity, the very place where we could learn about our history and know more about our past? You're obliterating it. For what reason? That would be like blowing up the pyramids because they worshiped Moloch there at one point. So, I still want to know about it. Still want to study it. But that's the way it is. Our world is kind of messed up. Hit that like button, everybody. Like, subscribe, share, support, join, and hit that Cash App $JakeJohnsonBand. I appreciate it very much. By the way, if you guys have any ideas for this book that I'm writing, I would like to hear it because I'm in the R&D phase right now. I've already selected 2 artists to illustrate this book, and I already have a good vague outline of what I'm going to put in it, but I can always put more. So please, if you have ideas, share them. John says they're trying to erase it. Yes. Yes, they are. That was my point. Aaron says, true. When we went, they raided sites and emptied buildings and looted. Yes, a lot of that. A lot of that was going on. Why would they do that over oil, which is what we were told the war was about? I understand they were trying to get Osama bin Laden. That was another narrative. But if they were trying to get Osama bin Laden, why didn't they go to Afghanistan where he was? Why did they attack Iraq? He wasn't there. Saddam Hussein was not the guy we were looking for. We got him, but we weren't really looking for him. So then there was a weapons of mass destruction and all that stuff. All nonsense. And they've since admitted all that it was nonsense. Yet that guy got hung. He's dead now. Do I like him? No, but I guess he ran a pretty tight country. They didn't have too many problems while he was in office until we became a problem. Aaron says, it was over land they lied. John says, that's what the Nazis was doing too. It seems like that's a theme, doesn't it? Trying to erase the past so that the future can't learn about it. That's also what was happening during all these riots that were going on a few years back. They started tearing down monuments and statues and things like that. Why would you do that? Oh, that guy was a racist. So? Do you not understand that monument is there to remind us of what happened in the past? So maybe somebody will see that statue and go read a book and then learn how to not make that mistake again. If you hide the past, you are doomed to repeat it. Think about that. A lot of hiding the past going on. And it seems like it happens a lot. It happens in the paleontology world. When they find things that don't fit the narrative, they destroy them. Such as the footprints in Biloxi, Mississippi. Or the bones that were found at Lovelock Cave. All these things were turned into the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian was called. And then they were never seen again. What about this stuff they found in the Grand Canyon? They found artifacts that looked Egyptian in the Grand Canyon. They called the Smithsonian. Now, there's a no-fly zone in certain parts of the Grand Canyon. You can't go there or you'll get arrested. And no one's ever heard of this find that they found in the 40s. Lots of interesting things just vanish. We have old monuments, but all of the history that involves them is nowhere to be found. Who built the pyramids? You don't know. Who built the stuff on the Maltese in the Maltas? All those temples that are there in Ireland. There's a lot of temples there. We have the monuments in the land of Rapha. That's the living dead. That's what Rapha means, Raphium. We have the monuments, but we don't have the history. We have no idea where they came from or what people put them there or when. They're just there. There's a lot of that in the world. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Amanda says it was a case of, hey, look over there while we do something else over here. Yeah, a lot of that. Aaron says taking people off boxes like it's going to make people less racist is so stupid. Yeah. Yeah, they don't seem to want to address the root cause of that. They just want to make it worse. Or do things that are completely irrelevant to that idea and then claim it in the name of racism. Like tearing down statues. How is that going to solve racism? It's not. Not even a little bit. Nobody even cares except for the fact that you're erasing history. Aaron says, no one cares about a box of rice. I guess you're talking about the Uncle Ben's rice. Yeah, nobody cares. Especially Uncle Ben, the guy who lent his portrait to that whole deal. They don't talk about that guy. Or Aunt Jemima. I wonder if you found that lady who modeled for that and asked her what she thought about it. She probably was very happy to have gotten that paycheck. And these things are not racist. These things are just silly people looking for things to pick about. Like naming a sports team the Chiefs or the Indians. Nobody cares. I am an Indian, and I don't care. Or an unnamed statue of a woman in New York. Oh, you mean the fat girl in New York? Yeah, that's silly, too. I wish somebody would tear that statue down. It's an eyesore. John H. says, I prefer tilde rice. It cooks better. I hear you. I don't particularly like rice, but I'll eat it. Aaron says, they put her back. Did they? Her who? Oh, Aunt Jemima. Oh, good. That's good. That was a good brand. Been around a long time. All you got to do is go back to the 80s, which isn't that far back. Not that long ago. And just look at the culture. Look at pop culture. Look at music. Look at movies. Look at people. Look at how people were dressing. This wasn't a thing. It was made a thing starting in about 2008 with the election of Barack Obama. I hate to say that, but him and all of his cohorts fanned that flame. And that's why we have what we got now going on. It wasn't necessary. And if you'll go back a little bit further to a guy named Yuri Bezmenov, go look up that name, Yuri Bezmenov, and find an interview that he did in the 80s. He's a Russian defector. He's a guy that used to work for the KGB, and he had defected over to America and became an American citizen under refuge, like a what do you call it, an asylum seeker. He was looking for protection to get away from the KGB, and he did a tell-all. And he went on an interview, and he explained what the KGB had in the works. And to the letter, it is everything that is happening in the world today. Everything. To the letter. It's unrealistic how similar everything that's happening today is what he listed in the 80s as ways to destabilize a community and tear a country out from the inside out, which is what they were working on doing, without fighting a war without shooting a bullet. And that guy labeled it in the 80s. His name is Yuri Bezmenov. Go look him up. And listen, it's a little hard to listen to because he's got a real thick Russian accent. But listen to what that guy says. It's amazing. You won't sleep for a week after you listen to him. Especially knowing what's happened in this country in the last 20 years. And he gives a timeline. He says it'll take 30 years to destroy a country from the inside out. All you got to do is follow this prescription, and he lays it out. It's been 30 years since the 80s, and here we are. Everything he said has come true. What say you guys? What do you think about all this good stuff? Are you into the book idea? You think it's a good thing to do? Is there anything else you think that this channel should do or be in service of? That's why we're here tonight, to talk about the future of this channel, because it's got to grow. It's been growing a little this year, but it needs to grow a lot. Walter Davis, what's up, buddy? He says, getting a lot of buffering. Hello, all. If I didn't go through, you came through, and I apologize for the buffering. We have a shoddy internet connection here. they came out and fixed the internet. And when they fixed it, I lost about half of my ability to broadcast. We're doing it, but it's not very good. And I do apologize if you're experiencing buffering. There's nothing I can do about it. John says, Enoch Powell was right about Britain with the immigrants. Absolutely. Open that thing up, Jake. Whew. Who's Enoch Powell and what did he say about Britain and the immigrants? I like the name Enoch Powell. It sounds strong. Walter says 5G ain't what it was advertised. No, it's not. I hadn't seen the first zombie. They told me that when 5G was rolled out, people's brains were going to melt. Didn't see that happen. What you up to, Walter? You doing good today? Nice to see you, sir. Smoke it up. Well, I think puts out a lot of smoke. Come on, come on, come on, now touch me, baby. I'm thinking I'm also going to make some videos to go along with that book. LOL, not smoke, water vapor. I hear you. I'm acutely aware that it's not smoke. John says, he said they will overrun Britain and they won't integrate with people. Well, that's obvious. Yeah. That's why you're having the roving gangs. I'll use the word roving. You know what I'm talking about. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. That's something that, we need to come to terms with that, both countries, and any country that has an influx of certain types of immigrants. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't fit. No matter how much you want to be philanthropic and be kind, what you're doing is hurting yourself. Walter says the cancer count jumped. Probably. I thought COVID cured cancer. What do you think, Walter? You think that happened? Or do you think they just stopped counting? They had other things on their mind. Is Linda in tonight? I haven't seen her. I'll let her know you're looking for her, though, if I see her. She was here Wednesday and wasn't feeling very well, so I don't know if she's feeling better or just hasn't come in yet. She might be in the background lurking, I don't know. But she hadn't said anything yet anyway. So, anyway, what I was talking about with the book, as I write this book out, I'm gonna lay it out in vignettes instead of chapters, like little sections of these different little ideas. And each vignette, I'm gonna make a video detailing everything and footnotes and sources and all of that, and put that on the members section of the channel for members to go check out. And that way, most likely they'll all have a book, and they'll have a way to reference it. because most likely I'm going to give all the members one of the books as a thank you. Amanda says, I talked to her yesterday and she still wasn't feeling well. Okay. Walter says, the vax was supposed to cure everything. It didn't so much. I hadn't seen where it has. Seems like it caused a lot more trouble than it was worth. But I'm not a doctor. You can't listen to me. Well, you guys are a talkative bunch tonight. What's going on with yourselves? Say something. Don't make me do all the talking. It's Friday. Been a long week. I am very much looking forward to a day of sleeping. I have not had one of those in about 3 weeks. Amanda says, long week, I'm tired. Yep. Aaron says, anyone talk to April? Not since Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. It might have been Monday. Yeah, it might have been Monday. I've talked to her Monday. And from what I understand, that has progressed and gotten worse. But she didn't talk a lot about it, so I don't know. And Amanda says she's not returning any calls or messages, so we hadn't been able to get up with her. We try to keep on top of you guys. But sometimes if you don't want to talk, you just don't want to talk. I put out Monday and Wednesday the email for anybody to email that might need something. And as of to date, nobody has emailed me. So I guess you don't need me, I don't need you back. Aaron says, poor little firehead. Right on. Amanda says, at this point, she may not even have a phone service anymore. I do not know. I hope not. I hope it didn't go that way. That would be bad. I'm just checking my email now. 0. Not one email. It was in Kevin's name. Okay. Well, that's none of my business. I can't discuss that. And I wouldn't want anybody discussing my private business, so I'm not going to discuss hers. But I seriously doubt that she doesn't have her own phone. I do not know, though. Anyway, that was it. Book. That was the thing I wanted to talk about. Aaron says it's tragic. It is. A lot of tragedy in the world. A lot of people needing something. A lot of people feeling things, hurting, struggling. I don't know if I'm prepared to handle that. I'm going to try. I don't know what I can do from the internet, though, but it seems like everybody I come in contact with is going through something. And maybe they just need somebody to talk to. Maybe they don't. I don't know. When I went through stuff, I needed somebody to talk to, Sorry, Jake, and don't be sorry. I was joking. Actually, it's a good sign, because if it was blowing up my email, then that would mean everybody needed something. It's good to know that nobody needs anything. It's good to know that the Lord blesses us all. In different ways, not always the same way, but always. That you can be sure of. And if you're doing his work, he's going to make sure you have everything you need. The Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things will be added unto you. And then it follows it up with God knows your heart. He knows what you have need of. So that's important. Amanda says, I need you, Jake. Yeah, but you ain't emailed me. Aaron says, well, Jake, I don't know if good gave you a choice. I don't know if good gave you a choice. If God gave you a choice. No, I don't know if he did or not either. Yeah, that's something to think about. It seems to have been there ever since I can remember. And I finally started listening to it and doing something about it in my late 40s. So I don't know that I had a choice, but it's all right. I don't mind it. John says, we had protesters break in an RAF base trying to destroy planes today for the Palestinians. Silly people. You lead and help people is your nature. True. Amanda says, I email you all the time and then have to ask you if you've checked your mail lately. I check it every day. I have to because it'll bug me if I don't. It beeps every time I get an email. I don't know about the leading thing, but I'm definitely altruistic, and I have to be. And the reason I'm that way is because people have been that way for me, you know. And I feel like that would be a bad thing if I wasn't that way back. I try to live by very simple rules. I try not to overcomplicate things. I follow the 10 Commandments. I have a set of values, and I stick to them. I don't try to live outside of my means. Linda Davis is here. She says, hey, I'm late, but I made it. Hi, Linda. You were being asked about just a moment ago. Amanda says, hi, Linda, hun. Aaron says, remember when it said you've got mail? I do remember that. You've got mail. That's a long time ago. John says, hi, Linda. And Amanda says, hi, Linda. And Walter Davis says, I've been falling so long, it's like gravity's gone and I'm just floating. Right on. Drive-by truckers. Nice. Walter, Linda, Walter. Aaron says, people listen more than you think. I know they do. I just struggle with something to say sometimes. It's much better if you say things and then I can respond to it. But that's kind of what I do is react. I'm not a very creative force. I do create things, but I'm not a creative force. I'm a reactive force. I take things that already exist and recompile them into something better. And Walter Davis says, hi, Linda. Still love you. That was very sweet, Walter. So if you're just joining us, we're discussing a book that I'm writing, and I'm very interested to know your thoughts about it. Patty, you're not talking a whole lot. Linda says, I had to go to the grocery store, and then I had to catch the chickens because today is the first time they came out of the coop. Nice. Aaron says, I control you so you release the Kraken. I'm too tired for the Kraken. Arr. There you go. That's all the Kraken you're getting. I feel like I haven't had a day off in 6 years. I usually have a day off once a week, but I sleep all day, so it don't feel like I have a day off. I haven't had that day off in 2 weeks. and I need it. Linda says, well, Walter, if you did, you'd get rid of the others. And Amanda says, oh, Linda. And Aaron says, you got chickens? That's cool. Are the eggs good? Are they old enough to make eggs yet? I've been thinking about getting some chickens here, too. They got to be easier than cats. Cats have babies and then abandon them, and then we have to deal with it. I don't think chickens do that. John says, just have to wait. Know if I get arrested for what I said about immigrants. Now for hate speech, it's freedom of speech. Right on. Yeah, don't get arrested, John. Don't say something that'll have them coming after you. Jake Kraken, open the coffee cup. And Linda says, nope, no eggs yet. And Amanda says, I'm over the cats. Well, you can't be. We got 2 newborns out there that need to be fed. So we need to do that after the podcast. Because their mother isn't doing it. And that means we're going to have to figure out something to do with them so they don't die. Aaron says, I've never had a farm chicken egg. Really? Well, they're just like store-bought eggs, only they're brown. And you got to wash the shit off of them before you crack them and eat them. Other than that, they're just exactly the same. Might be a little darker in color. I think the store-bought eggs are a little yellower, lighter color. And the chicken eggs are darker yellow. It just means they're healthy. And they're delicious. Walter says, well, Linda, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. You wanted chickens. Chickens are nice. And Amanda says, and they don't have to be refrigerated. They last longer on the counter. Yeah. If you put them in the refrigerator, they got to stay refrigerated. If you don't put them in the refrigerator, they'll last as long enough for you to eat them sitting on the counter. Store-bought eggs have to be refrigerated because they start out that way. Aaron says, they say some had multiple yolks in them. Yeah, sometimes. There's a difference between chickens that lay eggs from mash and chickens that lay eggs from roosters. If you have a rooster in the bunch, he's going to fertilize some of the eggs. And sometimes they'll get split yolks. If you get it before the egg starts working, I don't know, rooster germinates the egg, chicken lays the egg. If you get it right then and cook it and eat it, it's fine. But if you let the chicken sit on the egg, it'll start developing a chicken. And if you get one of those, you'll know because you'll get a little chicken in your frying pan. You don't want that. It's not like veal. Amanda said, yep, that's common in farm eggs. Also, sometimes they have spots. What's the spots for? I don't know. It means it's the extra special egg. I once ate an emu egg. You know what an emu is? An emu. There was enough egg there to feed a family of 5 for a week. But it was a good egg. The egg was about that big, about the size of a basketball. And those are big eggs, says Amanda. Yes, they are. John says, Linda, get a UV light test and then hold it up to it. You mean the chicken egg? Yeah, you could hold it up and see what's in it. Or you could just crack it. Try your luck. I like it that way because it's like gambling. You never know what you're going to get. Place your bets, place your bets, place your bets. Oh, no omelet today. Linda says duck eggs have a little stronger taste and are bigger. Yep, right on. I've never eaten a duck egg, but I have eaten a robin egg before. They look like little candies. They're little tiny spotted eggs, speckled eggs. They're white but blue specks all over them. They look like candy. Don't eat them like candy, though. You got to crack them open on a little tiny frying pan. Put a little tiny bit of butter in there. Make a little tiny egg sandwich. Amanda says you can do that with a flashlight, too. Right on. And the UV will show the blood flow in the veins. Nice. Linda says, no roosters here. I'll get more from a friend of mine. Right on. Right, so you can eat all the eggs that come out of your chickens. You don't have to worry about it. Just keep feeding them laying mash. John says, yes, Linda. Angela Ashkin says, good evening, you all. Hello, Angela. Please hit that like button, everybody. There's 10 people in chat and only 5 likes. That math ain't mathin'. Am I not working hard enough for your entertainment to deserve a like? Also, like, subscribe, share, support, join, and hit that super chat or Cash App, $JakeJohnsonband. I certainly do appreciate that very much. Amanda says, hi, Angela. Angela, how you doing tonight, sweetheart? Hope you're doing well. Aaron says, I had a rooster as a pet in the middle of the city. LOL, people thought I was crazy. Yeah, well, where did you keep it in the middle of a city? It ain't like they got places for chickens to go pecking. And chickens like to peck. Angela says, hello, Amanda Hart. Chicken of the city. By day, he's a mild-mannered chicken. By night, he's bat chicken. Dun, 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 dun. John says, did you put on a lead, Aaron? Did you put on a lead, Aaron? Did you walk the chicken with a leash, Aaron? I'll translate from English to English. Aaron says he lived in the garage and would peck on the yard. Nice. Linda says, you crazy. The roosters are confused. They crow all day, not just in the morning. Right on. Some roosters are confused. But if you understand what they're saying, it's not confusing at all. If you think about what a rooster is actually saying, I mean, it's not crazy at all. I mean, you think it's crazy, but have you really thought about what's up there? We're on a rock hurling through space at 66,000 miles an hour. We're traversing this planet at 1,000 miles an hour, flying through space at 66,000 miles an hour, hurtling a rock that's on fire, which is also hurling through space at untold numbers of miles per hour, and nobody's driving, and there's no roof on this thing, by the way. And so what a chicken is doing, a rooster, every morning he's going, ah, 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 ah. Do you see that? There's a giant ball of fire in the sky. Ah! That's not that crazy. There is a giant ball of fire in the sky, and nobody's driving this thing. Does that not concern you at all? Have you looked up lately? All of that is out there, and we're flying through it randomly. Patty says, if the enemy is not rattling your chain, you might want to wonder why. I agree. Absolutely. You get the most flack when you're flying over the target. That's a fact. Very astute, Patty. Aaron says, nope, he just walked around. Angela says, I'm watching a tornado trying to touch the ground in North Dakota right now on Ryan Hall, y'all. Live weather with storm chasers and watching you. Well, I understand that I'm more exciting than a tornado. Amanda says, we are on an axis. I understand. And there also is somebody driving. It's God, and he knows what he's doing. But I'm talking in scientific terms, and the chicken doesn't know any better. Chickens don't believe in God. Aaron says, the sky is falling. Angela says, no, I'm not scared of hurling around like that. God has got us. Amen. Aaron says, dang, Angela. That's right. That was kind of what my point was. I was being facetious or hyperbolic, as it were. I intend to do that. But, yeah, we're not hurling randomly through space. There's a design to what's happening here. It's like clockwork. So much so that if anything were 1% different in our solar system, 1% closer or further away, 1% hotter or colder, 1% nearer or further, 1% bigger or smaller, 1% different, and life would not exist. This whole thing is that precise. It's like clockwork. It's like a Swiss Army clock with a bunch of attachments. Swiss Army clock. I got my metaphors mixed up. Anyway, this is a very precise mechanism that we live in. All the planets are there to balance this planet. All of them are there to protect this planet. That's why all of the asteroids that are coming into the solar system hit Jupiter instead of us, because God put it there for that reason. We're very safe here. And all this fear of being hit by an asteroid or global warming or whatever, it's all nonsense. Now, if you really want to know, look at the moon. The moon, the face that's facing us, is littered with asteroid impacts. Yet we have never seen anything hit the moon. Does that make you wonder? It should. Also, did they go around us to hit the moon? Or did they come from us? I think they came from us. I think that happened during the flood. When the earth broke open, it threw rocks up into the air under pressurized water that was so pressurized because it's under 10 miles of solid rock, shot up into space, throwing debris, and all hit the moon. Also, all of the asteroids on the moon impacts are the same depth, which is odd. Just thought I'd point that out. Now, think about the solar system. I had a point and I forgot what it was. It doesn't matter. God's watching. That's all I'm saying. Patty says, listening, buddy. Right on. Angela says, yep, Jake, we are by design, not by happenstance. That's what I was saying. Everything is precise. We don't ever see asteroids hit the moon, yet it's littered with asteroid impacts. But if you watch Science Channel or History Channel or Discovery, and they show you an asteroid impact, it'll show fire engulfing the whole planet, right? That's not how asteroids work. That's not how dirt works to start with. Most asteroids that hit Earth, if they hit Earth, they're going to hit the ocean most of the time, because there's 70% of the Earth is ocean. There's less land than there is ocean, which means most likely it's going to hit water. If it hits land, it's going to hit either an iron deposit or dirt or some form of rock if it hits the mountains, right? So all you got to do is look at any asteroid impact that you can observe, like the one in Arizona, and you'll see that there's a great big hole in the ground, and then there's about a mile of debris on either side of it. Most of that debris is within the first 500 feet of the crater. The rest of it is scattered in, both directions. So that'll tell you what happens when an asteroid hits the ground. It leaves a hole. If you want to do something similar, take your .22 rifle outside, point it at a patch of dirt and shoot it. and watch the bullet hit the ground and the dirt that flies up afterwards. That's about the equivalent of being struck by an asteroid from outer space. It's going about that fast. See, when it hits our atmosphere, it's going to heat up rapidly because we have an atmosphere, and that causes instant drag on the asteroid. It'll heat up to red hot almost instantly. That's what happens when things come into our atmosphere. 99% of the time, it'll blow up or burn up in the air and never touch the ground. If it is big enough, like 6 miles wide, something like that, it might make it all the way through that to the ground, but it will be molten when it gets here. So, take you a crucible and throw some metal in it and heat it up to red hot and then splash it on the ground, and then you'll see what it'll look like when an asteroid hits the Earth. It's not going to catch the atmosphere on fire. It's not going to destroy the entire globe. That's not how dirt works. Stop watching cartoons and getting afraid of the future. And that's what the Discovery Channel is. It's all cartoons. None of that's real. None of it. You've never seen a planet. You've never seen an asteroid. You've never seen an asteroid impact. You've never seen Bigfoot. Everything on those channels are cartoons. Stop watching them. It's not how dirt works. I'm glad I got that off my chest. I feel better now. Linda says, be careful, Angela. Aaron says, the sad part of the sky falling is if it did, they would try to sell it back to us. You bet your bottom dollar they would. Angela says, Linda, I'm in Indiana. I'm praying for 𝕂𝕚𝕝𝕝𝕝𝕝𝕝, North Dakota right now. Amen. Lord, please watch over 𝕂𝕚𝕝𝕝𝕝𝕝, North Dakota. Aaron says, is the tornado near you, Angela? No, she's in Indiana. North Dakota's a good ways away from Indiana. Not too far away, but it's away. Indiana's a little askew of me out in the Midwest. It's in the middle of the country. Aaron, Angela says, no, Aaron, I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Aaron says, oh, you're watching for entertainment. Got it. Aaron says, cool. And hey, Patty, good to see you, says Aaron. Angela says, I'm watching because as a kid, my mom would take us tornado chasing. Nostalgia. I did that once after I watched that movie Twister. I wanted to be a storm chaser for like a week, and I would ride out and go in the storm and follow it around. Never did see a tornado, though. A lot of storm. Walter says, the moon has been hit in the last 10 years. I watched it. Really? Hit by what? Aaron says, that's pretty cool, Angela. Angela says, this storm is producing up to 97 miles per hour winds and 3.25-inch hail. Scary. I've been through a couple of those storms. Amanda says, everything is bullshit. Yeah, it is. Aaron says, that's pretty big. I remember Ian. I remember Hurricane Ian. Walter says, the moon got caught in orbit and hasn't hit the Earth yet, but it's 6 inches closer every year. You got that backwards, Walter. It's actually going away. It's not coming closer. That's incorrect. How many moons hit the Earth? ? None. What caused the 7 ice ages we are aware of? We're only aware of 1 ice age. You can't prove that it ever happened more than once. And what caused that was the flood. I'm sorry to inform you, but that is incorrect. John says, in Britain, we only get little tornadoes. Sweet. Big meteorites. Yes, Well, what are you saying? Big meteorites. Big meteorites caused the Ice Age? There's no evidence of that. That's a theory. That's a Graham Hancock kind of theory. There's absolutely no evidence that an asteroid caused the Ice Age. There's no evidence that there was an Ice Age. The only thing that we're aware of is that the poles are frozen and that at one time on Earth, it came down into the middle of the country. And that's true. This country used to be covered by a glacier. But there's no evidence that that happened rapidly or that it doesn't happen all the time. If the Earth is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, millions and millions of years old, that could be a cyclical thing that happens all the time. It just hasn't happened again yet. Or it could have happened during Noah's flood. And for about 100 years after the flood, there was a glacier over the continent, which eventually melted. I don't know. But there's no evidence that proves any of that. These are all conjectures by pretty smart scientists, but they don't have any proof of it. Angela says, I'm watching a rope-type tornado trying to make it to the ground. I've seen one of those. John says, I like watching comets. We used to have one to come around quite regular, Hale-Bopp comet. In 1995, it landed in Jupiter in 3 sections, and that sadly is no more. Walter says, nope, there was several. Sorry to disagree. Several what? You're not giving me any information here. You're saying that there were a thing, but that doesn't tell me what you're talking about. You're talking about ice ages or asteroids? No, you can't prove that there was more than one ice age. If so, how? I'm sorry. Frozen is frozen. You can't get more frozen. Aaron says, what's a rope type? It's a little thin, cylindrical type twister. Angela says, those glaciers are why we have such fertile ground for farming. Yes. Well, see, the thing is Noah's flood occurred. There's evidence all over the earth that it was flooded. Well, what happens during a flood is the water, unchecked by mountains, which weren't there at the time, would be like 900 feet waves because the moon pulls against the earth and causes high tide. But high tide is checked by the seashore, so it hits resistance. If it's above that, it's just pure water. So you got this big, massive wave going all over the earth every 6 hours or 9 hours or however high tide works. And when it does that, it pulls all the sediment with it on the bottom. So it's like scrubbing the ground with sandpaper or like mud, just sloshing back and forth. And what that does is it takes all the sediment from wherever it comes from and deposits it evenly. That's why we have fertile grounds. And you could add on top of that a glacier, which comes down from up north. It moves very slowly. It encroaches. And when it does that, it brings all kinds of boulders and stuff with it. And then when it melts, it leaves them wherever it drags them to. That's why we got all these weird big boulders out in the Midwest that just seem like they came out of nowhere, because they did. They came from up north. And when the ice melted, it just left them wherever they were at. And the ice left them on the ground. Walter says the Gulf of Mexico, or America, was hit. But I wasn't there that day, so I'm just listening to people that studied it. That's what they say, although I don't see any evidence of that. Adversely, if you go to the Yucatan and you see the crater there, that looks like a crater. The Gulf of Mexico does not look like a crater. I can't argue with you, though, because I wasn't there either. But you can say anything. I'm just talking about what we have evidence of. So I'm not disagreeing with you that somebody might have said that. I'm not disagreeing with you that somebody might think that. I'm just saying there's no evidence of that. And Walter says, Hell Bop had the idiots in the cult that killed themselves. Yeah, yes it did. And the last time it came through, right before it crashed into Jupiter, it had a bunch of people wearing funny shoes, drink the Kool-Aid and off themselves in Beverly Hills or wherever it was in California. And because they thought they were going to catch a ride on a spaceship that was flying behind the comet. They probably know now that that's not the case. But yep, that did happen. That was called the Cult of Heaven's Gate. John H. says, there's a glacier in New Zealand. Yep. Angela says, I'm ADD. I can listen to you and watch the storm. Barnes County, North Dakota just had a huge tornado on the ground. It picked back up and is just hanging there like a cone. Scary. Dan Cooper, what's up, buddy? He says, hey, did you guys hear there is trouble in the Middle East? Yeah, we've heard. There's trouble everywhere, Dan. The Middle East is just the latest thing. Aaron says, Angela, what's a rope type tornado? And Walter says, Noah's flood was the glaciers melting fast. Nope. See, there's not enough ice in the glaciers to cover the whole earth with water. I know you think there is, but there isn't. Now you have to see them. Anyway, the water that came from Noah's flood came from underneath the earth. The ground broke open and the water came up. This is described in the Bible, and it tells you about how it happened. It also tells you what effect it had. The ground broke open, the water came out, and it pushed the land masses backwards. It says in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. That was one generation after the flood. That means that while the flood was still going on, while there was still water on the earth, the land masses moved. That means all the tectonic plates shifted. Reason for that is because water is running off into low places and pushing up high places, just like it would anywhere. If you take a big field and fill it full of water and then break the dam and watch all that water rush out to the other side, you'll see that happen. A lot of liquefaction going on. So I would imagine for about 200 years after the flood, there was still things happening. The mountains were pushed up as a result of the ground breaking open, and whatever occurred after that was settling the earth back down. Probably dropped a lot of height because all that water came out, leaving caverns. So the ground probably sunk down quite a bit in some areas where that water was at. And there's still water in the earth today, as a matter of fact. All of it didn't come out. So we still have underwater aquifers, and quite plentifully at that. But the ice, as a result, when that water shot up out of the ground, it was going supersonic. Remember, there's 10 miles of rock on top of that water, and it's like a pressurized bottle. And the earth split open and all the way around the earth. And there's trenches out in the middle of the ocean that verify this. And when it split open, that water shot out so fast that if you were standing next to it, you would have been vaporized by the heat and by the speed of the water. It would have thrown water and debris up into the atmosphere. Now, as you know, we have a magnetic field around the earth, and water has ions. So, in the absence of any atmosphere, it would act on what's there, which is the magnetic field, and all that water would go around the globe and come back down at the poles. That's where the ice is. That's why it's icy, because it rains back down super cold. There you have it. Bob's your uncle, you got an ice age. That's my theory anyway. Am I right? Look at the evidence and you tell me. It matches better than what science says anyway. Amanda says, hi, Dan, and Walter says, message retracted. Angela says, a rope type kind. a rope type, kind of looks like a spinning spaghetti, and that is a little thicker at the top. It's like a spindle. Aaron says, oh, I've seen those, and thank you for telling me. And Walter says the Gulf of America has odd geologic formations that could only be caused by a giant hit. As in what? What are those odd geologic formations that can only be caused by a giant asteroid? I'm not saying that it's not, but I just want to know what the evidence is. I've been saving this one all night. John H. says, because Britain was connected to France at one time. Yeah, everywhere was connected at one time. Science would call that Pangea. The Bible calls it the earth God made. You have to understand that pre-flood, there were no oceans. Oceans didn't exist. They didn't exist until the water came out from under the earth onto the surface of the earth. You ask where all the water went from Noah's flood? It's still here. There it is on both continents, right? So at one point, all the land masses were one, and there were seas but not oceans, like the Red Sea and the Black Sea and the whatever. There's 7 of them. Anyway, there's probably more than 7 of them. I don't know where the word 7 seas came from, but that's probably got something to do with it. Anyway, all that water pushed the continents apart over time, and that's why we have them the way they are now. And they're still moving, by the way. They hadn't stopped moving yet. Which tells you it wasn't that long ago. This idea that the world is millions and millions of years old is patently absurd. I can see how much has changed just in my lifetime, and working backwards, I can't imagine it being here longer than a few thousand years. I could reasonably see 20,000. That's a reasonable number. 1 million? I don't think you know what 1 million is if you think we've been here that long. Amanda says, they kind of look like the water spouts in Florida, Aaron. It's basically what they are, water spouts. Angela says, the big fat tornadoes is on the ground destroying trees, and I'm glad it is the country. I'm glad it's in the country and the metro area. Right on. Aaron says, oh, thanks, Amanda. We saw one just the other day. A water spout. Angela says, kind of like natural springs, Jake. Yep. Except very, very powerful. If you're talking about the earth pushing the water out, yeah, exactly like a natural spring. Oh, you're talking about the water that's left in the... Yeah, yes, natural springs would come from that. And there's vents in the ocean at the bottom that's releasing hot water. Well, where's that water coming from? It's coming from lower, right? So there's still lots of water under the earth. But a lot of it came out during the flood, and that's why we have oceans now. And if you want to know how long ago that was, just look at the salt content in the ocean, and that'll give you a good idea. You can yada yada it all you want. I'm not a mathematician, but I'll give you the answer. It's about 4.5 thousand years worth of salt. That's 4,500 years worth of salt. That's about how long ago they were put on this earth. That's a good question, though, the natural springs. Amanda says, yep, I used to love to see those form. And Aaron says, LOL, a fat tornado. It's getting a workout and getting skinny. Right on. Walter says, all around the Mediterranean, there are ruins of cities and towns a few hundred feet below sea level. How come? That's easy, because they used to be above sea level, because sea level was informed by the extra water that's on the earth. The water rose quite a lot, and it pushed all the continents away. So, yeah. This is a thing that's been going on for 4,000 years. It's not a one-time event. It didn't happen overnight. The flood itself lasted for 2 years. There was a year of water rising. Noah was on the boat for 18 months, a little longer than a year. And then they hit a mountaintop, and they got off the boat after it settled. But there was water still receding for many, many, many months after that, maybe even a year or two after that. The tectonic plates didn't start shifting until about a century after the flood, one generation after the flood, about 100 years. So the tectonic plates started moving, separating the continents and making way for new waterways. Probably how come Australia got separated from the mainland, things like that. But during that time, people were building cities because they didn't know the continents were going to move. They didn't know the water was going to rise. So they built cities. And if you'll go further out, you'll find more. Yes, we find them near the coasts, but they go all the way. If you go out in the middle of the ocean, you'll probably find ruins somewhere. This world was built to be inhabited and was so very much, way more than the population is right now before the flood. Now, there's evidence in the Bible that would lead you to believe that there was at least double the amount of people on earth then than there is now. They might have had 12 billion people on earth when the flood happened. That's a guess. I don't know that for sure, but it's a good guess. Sorry, Jake, didn't happen. Well, again, I have evidence to prove what I'm saying. I'm asking for your evidence. You can say it didn't happen. That doesn't make it right. I happen to be an authority on the subject, and I know it did happen because I can point to what caused it to happen. That's not what we're doing here. We're just having a conversation. But if you want to get technical, I can bring out the evidence. Days and days and days of it, not just one little thing. I didn't just happen to start believing this. You know, you've been listening to me for long enough to know that I say things that are a little bit different than what everybody else says. But you also know that I'm usually right. Why would you think I'm not now? Dan says, hello, Amanda. Angela says, and by the way, what didn't happen? There's no context in that statement. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm assuming you mean the flood. Angela says, I have been to the meteor crater in Arizona a couple times. Yeah, it's fascinating. When you were there, did you get the notion that the whole world caught on fire and everything on it died? Or did you get the idea that a rock hit the ground pretty hard? I mean, just how did you feel about what you saw? That's what I'm asking. Aaron says, that's a cool cat, Walter. That's a cool cat, Walter. He must be talking about his picture. I can't see it. But vaguely looks like cat ears. Linda Davis says, didn't an asteroid hit Siberia? Yes. You're talking about the Tuskegee something. Yes. In 1908, it knocked down about 800 miles of trees. It never touched the ground, though. That's the interesting part. That's why I have evidence to back up that most of the time asteroids don't even hit the ground. They burn up before they get here. Unless they're really, really big and made of iron, they won't even hit the ground. And one in Siberia knocked down quite a lot of trees when it exploded in midair because it got way hot coming in. And it was a big one, a couple of miles wide. Sorry, my chat jumped. I'm trying to get back to where I was. Oh, car, not cat. My bad. Walter says science is a joke. Yes, it is. Previous civilizations destroyed itself, caused an ice age, and then come us. It's God's plan to keep us humble. People did not cause the ice age. They did destroy themselves. They did not cause an ice age. Angela says, yes, Jake, I was talking about the flood being like natural springs, very powerful ones. Yes, very much so. And it like I said, if you were anywhere near where the water came out of the earth, you would have been vaporized instantly. I would imagine it was quite catastrophic. Now, where Noah was, they just rose. The water didn't even come in hard, it just rose, If you've ever been in a local flood and you ever looked out your window and saw a mud puddle and then looked out 10 minutes later and saw it up to your knees and then looked out 10 minutes later and it was covering the house, it's kind of how it would have been. And Walter says, trillions of tons of dust comes from space and lands on Earth every year. Really? Where is it? I've never seen any of it. Where is this dust going? Adding mass and causing change to the landmass. Again, where is this dust coming from? I've never seen dust falling from sky. Is there a place where I can see pictures of that? Or capture it in a cup? That's just simply not true. If dust came from outer space into our atmosphere, it would burn up before it ever got close to the ground. You ever watched a space shuttle come in? They just dip in, and they get beet red just from falling. Just think about it for a minute. That's one of those ideas that science planted in your head to describe all the layers, which incidentally happens in a flood. Water causes dirt to sort itself out. It's called ecological sorting, hydraulic sorting, from most dense to least dense. And but they like to claim that there's a reason for all the layers, like dirt flies from over there to over here, but nobody's ever seen that happen. They just talk about it. I understand why you think that, but it's not true. I'm trying to help you on this one. Angela says, Aaron, this huge storm cell is producing tornadoes from both the front and the back of this storm front. Terrifying. Kevin Bernard says, Amy, thanks for the shout out. Hey, Kevin, how are you, buddy? Amy, how are you, sweetheart? She says, like, shared, and invited some friends. Yes, please hit that like button. There's 15 people still in the chat and only 6 likes. Come on now. I'm working my tail off. Making my brain jump around. Angela says, Walter and the sand from the desert flies in the air to the U.S. I don't know if I believe that either. I have heard somebody say that before. I don't know if that's true. I've never seen dust coming from off the coast flying into the area. If it does happen, I would like to see it. But I know dust ain't coming from outer space and landing on the earth. I know that's not happening. All you got to do is sleep outside and you'll know that's not happening. Amanda says, hi, Kevin. And Walter says, if the salt mines under the Great Lakes collapse, the Mississippi River Basin will be salt in 10 years. I believe that. I believe that's true. Also, that should prove my point. If you follow that thought to its nth degree, that should prove my point. There are salt flats, great quantities of salt in Texas and along Mississippi and other places in the world, the great salt lakes, the salt flats, I mean. Why isn't any of that in the ocean? Well, every time it rains, water rains down and hits the ground and soaks into the ground. But more specifically, the water table moves towards the ocean, and it washes all the salt content off of the earth into the ocean. If the earth has been here for millions of years, you should be able to walk on the ocean for its salt content, but it isn't. It's only about 7% salinated. 7%. That's just enough you can't drink it immediately. You can train yourself to drink it if you do it over a long period of time and raise your pH balance slowly. But if you just take a gulp, it'll make you sick and you'll throw up. Now, why is the water only 7% salinated? All over the globe. It's uniformly not salty enough to be millions of years old. Also, the Mississippi River empties out into a delta, does it not? That's what New Orleans is, the delta. Where's all the deltas at? Of millions of years of mud. You can count, you can calculate how much mud that is, how much mud flow and for how long it would take to develop. You can calculate it. There's only about 4,000 years of mud there. Where's all the mud that came out of the Grand Canyon if the Colorado River carved it? Where's the delta for it? These things don't add up. Those things lead to other things. Questions. When you answer these questions, you get more questions. And more and more and more. And you're unraveling an onion until you find out that, things aren't what you were told. Everything is bullshit. Everything. I've never found anything that wasn't, except the Bible. And the things that surround the Bible are bullshit. Amanda says, hi, Amy. And Kevin says, hello, Amanda. And John says, hi, Amy. Angela says, hello, beautiful Amy. Y'all gonna hurt my feelings if that like count don't jump up to 13. Amy says, I'm late, but I'm here. I'm glad you're here, Amy. How are you? Kevin says, hello, Jake, and all the viewers. Hey, Kevin. What's up, buddy? Show Me Sasquatch says, blessings. Hello, Show Me Sasquatch. Long time no see. How you doing? How's your channel doing? John says, hi, Kevin. Kevin says, hello, John. Linda Davis says, Angela, I love watching storms. That thing's going to kill me. Horrible. But I kind of like it. Kevin says, hello, Linda. And Linda says, hi, Kevin. Amy says, thanks again, Aaron, for ordering that Bible for me. I appreciate it. That is so lovely of you, Aaron. Thank you, buddy. Amy says, hey, y'all. How you doing, sweetie? Walter says, but there was a living olive tree with leaves on it that died. Hold on. There was an olive tree with leaves on it that the dove brought to Noah, and there was still high, dry ground, proof by the cities under the water in the Mediterranean. Those two things are not connected. You know that he released 3 doves before the one that brought him the olive branch, and they didn't return. They died. The one that returned led him to believe that they were coming to land, and they did. They hit a mountaintop called Ararat, or the mountains of Ararat. That's where the olive branch came from, and that's where they settled. A mountaintop, not a city under the ocean. Both of those things are true, but they're not connected. They're two different things, and 2 different time periods, and 2 different locations. Most of these ruins that are underwater are found off the coast of India. Not all of them, but most of them are. That's nowhere near where Noah was at. Noah was in Turkey. Right up by where the Göbekli Tepe is. When they got off the ark, they built an altar to God. Göbekli Tepe. Kevin says, hello, Walter. Amy says, I made homemade beef and noodles for dinner. Nice. I had sausage sandwich and French toast. We're like 1 day away from Kraft macaroni and cheese broke. We're doing good, though. French toast is a good meal. Angela says, nope. I think it just hit the ground and went deep in. Exactly. It threw up a little bit of debris, made a nice big crater top, threw some dirt that way, and that was it, right? When you look at the ground, that's what looks like happened, because that's what happened. When an asteroid, and by the way, that particular asteroid was solid iron. How do I know that? Because the iron is still there at the bottom of that asteroid crater, and it's a pretty big crater. That asteroid might have been 3 miles wide. I don't know how big the crater is. I can't remember. I used to know this, but I can't remember it now. But I'm guessing that the asteroid that caused it would have been about 3 miles wide, and that made it to the ground. Most asteroids smaller than that won't even hit the ground. They'll never touch the ground. And you've heard tell of people being hit by asteroids, like their car getting hit or whatever. That's when a big asteroid comes into the Earth and it breaks apart and it throws debris when it explodes. And the little dust that comes off of it will hit the ground. But the main core will not, unless it's made out of iron or nickel or something like that that can withstand the heat and make it all the way to the ground without burning up. If it's rock or ice, it'll never hit the Earth. I stand by it. We'll never be destroyed by an asteroid, folks. Many of them have hit the Earth over the years. Not one of them has destroyed us, and the one in the Yucatan didn't kill the dinosaurs. I hate to tell you that. Because if it did, you would have to then explain to me how it killed the dinosaurs but left all the rabbits and dogs and people and everything else that's alive today. Homemade beef and noodles for dinner. That sounds good. Angela says, nope, I read all that. Okay, moving on. Tunguska, that's it. The Tunguska event in Siberia, 1908. I got the date right. I couldn't remember the name. All I could think of was Tuscarora, but you got it. Thank you, Amanda. I did get the date right, though. Go back and listen. I said 1908. Amy says, Angel Heart. Angela says, I love watching storms too, Linda. They are beautiful. I love listening to the rain on a tin roof. I can sleep for hours. I have a tin roof. It's on my Florida room, which is about 2 doors away from my bed. And when it rains, I cannot hear the rain from my bed. But if I stand in the doorway, I can hear it. So I had to learn to sleep standing up. Amy says, Kevin, Amanda, Aaron, Linda, Walter, Jake, everyone else. Nice to see you, Amy. Walter says the flood happened prior. There were glaciers through God's plan. Where does it say that in God's plan? The glaciers melted fast and caused a flood. That's incorrect. The Bible describes how the flood happened. It does not mention glaciers at all. There was no rain until the flood to speak of. The water came up from the ground in a mist, like when you go out in the morning and everything's wet. That's what it did. It didn't rain until the flood. There were no glaciers before the flood. Sorry. Nowhere in the Bible. I've read it from cover to cover several times and in a couple of languages. There's no ice in the Bible. And you keep saying God's plan, but where does it say that? Because God's plan is in the Bible. Amy says, Debbie. Aaron says, you're welcome, Amy, and I hope you enjoy it. And by the way, I'm not getting on to you, Walter. I'm just trying to correct bad thinking. And I understand where you got it from. I'm not new to this. I mean, you're not telling me stuff I haven't heard before. So don't think I'm getting on to you. I'm not. I'm not trying to be mean to you either. But I can't just let things be said that isn't correct. Aaron says, you're welcome, Amy, and I hope you enjoy it. Talking about that Bible. And that Bible is a worthy investment. Believe that. All the answers are in it. And in a minute, I'm going to get back to the book. Amy says, can I ask everyone to pray for Amy B, please? Yes. She starts a new journey today of recovery, praying for strength and success. Absolutely. Father, we ask that you touch Amy B. She is a member of our group, and we'd like for you to watch over her, Father. Your will be done always, but give her strength, courage, and wisdom in her journey, and hold her up, Father. And if there's a healing in there, we'd ask you to provide it. Thank you, Lord. And likewise with everybody in the chat. In your son, Jesus Christ's precious name we pray. I hope that helps. Tell Amy B we're thinking about her and we love her. Aaron says, oh, I have a question, Jake. Ask. I have an answer. Dan says, asteroid Chicxulub impacted Earth in what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. And that was a huge one. Yep, sure did. And they've been mining ore from it since then. But it didn't kill the dinosaurs. That's wrong. And I can prove it. More ways than one. John H. says, I only see the odd satellite come down. Righto. And that don't happen that often. Most of the time they burn up out in the middle of the ocean. We never have any idea what's coming down. Walter says Tesla had an energy cannon and fired it in 1908 because Admiral Byrd was supposed to be at the North Pole and would be witness to the success. But it was a few degrees off and hit Siberia. Look it up. Okie dokie. I have. I not only studied Nikola Tesla in depth, but I also have studied Admiral Byrd because of his diary and because of the claims that he made. I know about him and his journeys. And I know about the asteroid that struck Siberia in 1908, and it was recorded in more places than America. So those things are not connected. And it may have been his ray gun that hit somewhere, and I think it was not Siberia. I think it was that place, Taiwan. Somewhere in the Asian areas, but it might have been, but it wasn't what caused the trees to fall over. Aaron says, where did the angels fall from, and where did they go when it happened? Okay. The angels left their habitation. I'm sorry, that's the best I can give you. I'm assuming their habitation is heaven, but it could be another planet. Could be Mars. I don't know. They left their habitation, is what the Bible says. And they came to earth, and they landed at Mount Hermon. You can look that up. Mount Hermon. A lot of different interesting things happened at Mount Hermon. And there's pilgrimages there to this day and temples dedicated to such things that occurred there. But that's where the influx of the fallen angels came to Mount Hermon and started from there out into the world. Hope that helps. And you can learn more about angels, Aaron, if you read the book of Enoch. And in that book, the angels are described more in detail. Some of their names are given, and some of their job titles are given, and some of their ranks are given, and some of the things that they did on earth is given. That stuff isn't in the Bible. Very few things about the angels are remaining in the Bible. Most of that's been taken out because it doesn't have anything to do with salvation. And that all occurred in 1066 at the Council of Nicaea when they made Bible canon. So they took out everything that wasn't about Christ. So a lot of that stuff doesn't survive. You have to go to other sources to find it. But the book of Enoch is a great source. And there's other books written by people that are from that era, such as Jubilee and Maccabees and several other books that you can find. Jasher. Don't read all of them, though, because some of them are forgeries, like the Book of Thomas, the Book of Adam and Eve. Those are forgeries. They're not real. But the ones I just named are. That's a good question. And those fallen angels are called Napha. If you want to do a study on the different names of people, look for words that are similar to the word Napha, and you'll find it. That's where we get the word Nephilim from, which means the fallen ones. And also Rapha, Napha and Rapha. Raphium is the dead ones, whatever that means. But there's a land of Raphium over in the Middle East also. And that'll give you an idea where they went and where they ended up. You can look up Gog and Magog. Those were two offsprings of angels. They weren't angels, but they were part angel. They had angel parents. But that's why the flood happened, to destroy those things. And according to the Bible, every living thing except for one family was corrupted by this bloodline. So that one family was spared in the flood. That would be 8 people, a father, 3 sons, and their wives. Amy says, D.B. Cooper. Isn't that the name of the guy, of the mysterious guy who hijacked a plane back in the 70s, who was never captured? I saw a similar name in chat. That's why I asked. Yes, D.B. Cooper was the guy that stole $1 million and hijacked a plane and then jumped out of the plane over North Carolina. And nobody ever saw him again. My guess is he died, because you don't have that kind of money in those days and don't spend it. And my guess is he did not know how to jump out of an airplane. I mean, this guy was not a Navy SEAL or whatever. So my guess is he jumped out of the airplane while it was too high and probably died in the air. You know, I don't know if you know this or not, but you got to lower to 1,500 feet before you can jump out of an airplane. I'm sorry, 15,000 feet. 15,000 feet before you can jump out of an airplane safely without protection. Old D.B. Cooper. There's been a lot of people looking for that money, though. I can tell you that. I have definitively discovered exactly where that money is not. Just in case you're interested. I can tell you where it isn't. I can't tell you where it is, but I know where it's not. No money is here. In fact, I ain't made a dime. That's a shame. Debbie says, sorry I'm late. I was dreaming of Kevin and lost track of time. Hey, Debbie, how are you, sweetheart? Well, Kevin's a fine specimen to dream of. All Kevins, in fact. Little known fact, Kevin is only 1 letter away from Jake. Just so you know. Jakes have mustaches. John H. says, hi, Debbie. Heart. And Linda says, LOL, Debbie, I'm glad you made it. Walter says, ever see a shooting star? Yeah, tons every year. I see shooting stars. By shooting star, you understand that is an asteroid bouncing off of the atmosphere. It's not coming into the atmosphere. It bounces off of the atmosphere. That's what causes the trail. And by the way, have you ever seen a shooting star hit the ground? No, you have not. You've never seen a shooting star and then a car alarm goes off. It doesn't happen. But yes, I've seen lots of shooting stars and meteor showers. None of those hit the ground either. Amanda says, LOL. Hi, Debbie. And Kevin says, hey, Debbie. And Walter says, you can't destroy matter. Incorrect, sir. You can't destroy energy. Matter can be destroyed quite nicely. Energy cannot be destroyed. Walter says, and it lands on Earth. What lands on Earth? The shooting star? No, it doesn't. Show me one news broadcast where a shooting star was recorded and then hit something. One. In all the years they've been doing news broadcasts, show me one. How come whenever there's a meteor shower, everybody goes out and sits on their car and watches it? Wouldn't they be ducking for cover if those things are coming down? Amy says, my grammar is off tonight, but hopefully everyone reads typo E's. Well, I definitely do. And your grammar is fine, sweetie. Dan Cooper is that old D.B. Cooper fella. Walter, we have an atmosphere to protect us from dust. It would be in high radiation. Yeah, that whole thing. A shooting star is an asteroid bouncing off of the atmosphere. It hits in like a skipping rock. It does not come into the earth. And if it does, it burns up, also creating the arc. But there's nothing hitting the ground. It burns up. I promise. Angela says the sand, it comes from across the Atlantic Ocean. Actually, sand comes from fish. It's actually fish shit. Don't believe me? Go ask why there's 3 different colored sands in Hawaii and see what answer they give you. It's made of silica, by the way. Sand is not dirt. Sand, nothing grows in sand because it's not dirt. It's silica, little crystals, and it comes from fish digesting things. And then there's other kinds of dirt called like diatomaceous dirt, which also isn't dirt, but is nutritious for growing things because it has life forms in it. Aaron says, all good, Amy, and we know you're smart. She is that. Amy says, salty seas from fish spit. Just kidding. Well, that's where the dirt on the bottom came from, for sure. John H. says, the Black Sea is the only one you can float in. You know why? You can float because its salt content is way higher than everywhere else. That's why you can float. Because salt makes you neutrally buoyant. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's what makes you float. And it's unnaturally salted because it's on a salt flat. Amanda says, everything is bullshit. Walter says, don't challenge me about sleeping outside, Jake. I didn't. I just said, all you got to do is sleep outside, and you'll know that you're not being pummeled by dust all night. I didn't challenge you at anything. I'm not challenging you at all. You're challenging me. There's a difference. I'm stating facts that cannot be refuted. It's not a challenge to you. In fact, I said so earlier. I'm not trying to be mean to you, and I'm not getting on to you, and I'm not challenging you. I'm just stating facts. Facts that cannot be refuted because I've already done the research, and they are correct. And you're in my wheelhouse right now. We're talking about things that I've studied for 40 years, so I know what I'm talking about. There are many things I cannot prove, but that is equally true on the other side of that argument. But, though I can't prove it, I can point to things that are anecdotally only there because I'm right. Linda says, fun fact, the government has caves full of cheese. All of us Gen X remembers government cheese. They got caves full of cheese. They got caves full of gasoline. And they got caves full of dynamite, TNT, baby. And they got caves full of money. They won't tell you where that one's at, though. And they have a cave full of seeds. And it's in some Arabian country. I don't know exactly where it is. I did know, but I've forgotten now. But it's in a desert. And there's a vault. And it goes down into a sand dune. And it's a big vault, and it's full of seeds of all living things. They call it the Ark, oddly enough. They don't believe in the Ark, but they call their version of saving humanity the Ark, interestingly. Aaron says, remember that giant block? I remember that giant block of cheese. They don't do that anymore, do they? I don't think I've seen a block of government cheese in a long time. Come to think of it. Debbie says, I went to our country extension office for cooking classes. Now, just to get the cheese. Ha! You went to the extension office just to get the cheese. I got you. Amy says, best grilled cheese ever from those blocks, Linda. Yeah, you got to be kind of special to be raised on government subsidies and like it. That's a special thing. Aaron says, and mac and cheese, right? Amy says, like Velveeta, but better. Yeah, we don't know what's in the government cheese, though. Walter says, what is the salt content at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean? At the Atlantic Canyons, the deepest spot on the planet. Well, the Marianas Trench is the deepest spot on the planet, but the Atlantic Canyons are a second, and it's the same as at the top. The deepest spot on the planet, I don't know, but I'm guessing it's higher because it's not. Because catch a fish at a couple of miles and it's dead at something. It's dead at surface. No, it's dead at the surface because it's deep fish. And when you raise it up, it implodes because it's under a lot of pressure down below. It has nothing to do with the salt content, it dying. It dies because you're raising it up to the surface. It gets the bends and it dies. The same thing would happen to you if you dove down that deep. You couldn't come back up. You'd have to be depressurized. Divers do it all the time. But the answer to your question is the salination content at the bottom of the ocean, even the lowest point, is the same as at the surface. It's 7% salinated. The ocean in its entirety is 7% salinated. By the way, just so you know, it is incredibly cheap and easy to desalinate ocean water and make it drinkable. Now, ask yourself, why wouldn't a state that is on an ocean not have salination plants up and down the coast? Why would they not do that? Why would they struggle to not have water from a source that they themselves cut off because of some fish or something that they wanted to keep safe? Why would they struggle when they have all the water that they can drink for free and all they got to do is desalinate it, which is easy and cheap? Ask Elon Musk if you think I'm wrong. It's easy and it's cheap. I can do it here with no money. I can desalinate water. Why are they fighting in California for water? Dan says, I live 30 minutes from the Grand Canyon. Areas there that are way off limits. Yes, I said that earlier. Allegedly, there is Egyptian carvings there. I said that earlier, too. Thank you, Dan, for corroborating my statement. Yeah, you can't fly over there. You can't visit there in some areas. Way off limits. You'll get arrested if you even walk in that direction. And the reason that is the case is because in the 40s, a guy went over there and found Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon, and he called the Smithsonian to report it, thinking that the country's museum would be interested, and they came, and then nobody ever saw any of that stuff ever again, or the guy. That was in the newspaper in the 40s. Amy says, Walter, water pressure at that depth, they can't survive at the top. Correct. Aaron says, interesting. I understand none of it, but I like this. What don't you understand? That I've read way too much for my own good? That I probably should have got a job instead of a microphone? What don't you understand? Amy says, your chat's about to jump and leave you lost. And it did. Hang on, I'm about to find it. 1024. Thank you. Amy says, use Preparation H for really bad asteroids. Yes, definitely. John H. says, there was one hit in Russia a couple of years ago. Yeah, well, I'm not saying that asteroids don't hit the Earth. I'm just saying it's very rare that they do. And when they do, they hit the Earth. None of them have caught the atmosphere on fire and destroyed every living thing on the planet. But if you go watch Discovery Channel, that's what you'll see every time. Those are cartoons. Reality is much, much lamer. Angela says mashed potatoes with a can of chicken in it is what I make a lot of second half of the month. Right on. Yeah, you do what you got to do. I had Johnsonville sausages and French toast tonight, so I understand. It's that time of the month. Linda Davis says, have to make my bed, but I'll be listening. Well, you make that bed. You made your bed, now lay in it, I think. Yeah, that's how that goes. Amy says, sounds good, Angel. And Walter says, if the olive tree had been underwater, it would have died. You mean the tree? No, trees can survive underwater for quite some time. But I think you mean the dove, and you're right. They don't dive in the water to catch things. It flew away to the mountaintop that they were about to hit, and it brought back an olive branch. And then they hit the mountaintop. Read the Bible. It's in that order. No green leaves come back with a branch with leaves on it. Living trees had to be dry ground. Not true. Not true at all. Look up Mount St. Helens and look what happened when it erupted. And also look at all of the thousands and thousands of trees that are in the water around the world. They sprout. Water and wood cause something very interesting to happen. You put wood in water, it sprouts. It's the reason we have trees today. Seeds can survive floods just fine. So can insects. They don't have noses. They breathe through their skin. And frogs can hold their breath for 2 weeks. Just so you know. I understand what you're saying, but trust me, they were going towards dry land. A flood, by its very nature, doesn't stay there. It will eventually dissipate, and it did. Amy says, make mine too, Linda. Make her bed too. I'm about to crawl in mine. Please do hit that like button, everybody. Subscribe, share, support, join, and hit that Cash App, $JakeJohnsonBand if you're feeling froggy. I appreciate that very much. Angel says, I use canned chicken and ramen noodles when I'm short on funds. I am sick to death of ramen noodles. I spent about 15 years eating those things, and I do not ever want to see another one again. That being said, if you are smart, you can make a bag of rice and a thing of ramen noodles and a few various other things. Last a long time. You can stretch $1 a long way if you take the time to price check and go to the cheap places. You can make $1 go a long way. When you're that broke, you have to make a decision. Do I want to survive or eat good? You can't do both. So you start downsizing everything. Then you start thinking about, well, I want to eat. I don't have to eat good. I just have to eat. So a pack of crackers will do. You know, that sort of thing. Live within your means. Now, Walter says, it left chickens and alligators. Just saying. Yeah. You talking about the asteroid? Yeah, it did. It left chickens and alligators. But it killed all the dinosaurs specifically. But everything else survived. I don't think that's real. I think that that's science being full of shit again. Trying to explain away Noah's flood. And also, we have tons of evidence all over the world. I did a hyperbole about it. Go watch my episode 6. I think it's episode 6 of Hyperbole. I did an episode about man living with dinosaurs and gave plenty of evidence that this is the case. There are pictures of dinosaurs that mankind supposedly has never seen on wall reliefs in Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat has a temple in Cambodia. Angkor Wat's a town in Cambodia, or a temple platform. Anyway, they have stegosauruses with the plates on their backs and the little spirals in their skin, standing upright in relief on the walls in Angkor Wat, Cambodia. They've never seen one, though. How did they know it had plates on his back? Because those disintegrate when they die. Because it's cartilage. Cartilage doesn't fossilize. So how did they know that? The only reason we know it's because we found a whole specimen that wasn't fossilized. That's how we know. How do you get a non-fossilized 60 million year old animal? Well, it wasn't 60 million years old. That's why. Amy says, amen. Walter says, look at Tesla's diary entries. I have. And the hit in Siberia and Admiral Byrd. I have. And tell me it was a meteor. It was a meteor. It was recorded in other places. You know, Siberia keeps records too. It was a meteor. I don't know what Tesla ended up doing with his research. I know where it went. I know who has it now. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish, but he didn't accomplish it. And Admiral Byrd was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. John H. says, prayers, Amy B. Thank you, John. Walter says, then where did the glaciers melt water go? The Great Lakes, the ocean, the Grand Canyon. Water goes towards the low spots. Everywhere there's low spots, there's water. Glaciers melt the whole United States all the way down to about the middle of Texas, maybe a little further up, maybe the middle of Arkansas, somewhere in that area, was covered by a very big glacier at one point. It's not anymore. It means it went away. Where did it go? It melted. Where did the water go? Down. Dan Cooper says, Walter, let it go. It's all right. Amy says, the Great Lakes and the rivers in the Midwest, maybe, Walter. We have hundreds of underground caves full of water. Amen. And Amanda says, nope, Nikola Tesla did not have an energy cannon that hit Siberia. The idea that Nikola Tesla was involved in the I'll say it in a minute. The Tunguska was, the idea that he was involved in that event is a massive explosion that occurred in Siberia in 1908. It is a popular conspiracy. It is, but it's not true. Walter Davis says, just prayed for Amy. Thank you, Walter. And I'm sure she's appreciative of that. And please do, everyone, say a prayer for Amy B. and all the other people in the chat that need it tonight and their loved ones. Amanda says, theory, but it is not supported by evidence because it's not, there is no evidence. I have read Nikola Tesla's diary and some of his work. What work the FBI didn't take immediately after his death. I've read some of it because I'm very fascinated by that guy. I've read enough of Admiral Byrd's diary to know he's a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and I don't believe a word he said. I think he was trying to cause people to look over here while the rest of the government was doing something over there. That's my opinion. I can't prove it, but I don't believe a lot of what he said. Now, as for them both working together, I don't see any evidence of that. As for the ray gun, I know he had drawings of a ray gun. I do not know that he ever put one into practice. There's no evidence of that. But a lot of people talk about it, but there's no evidence of it. But there is HARPA. If you want a real conspiracy theory, look into HARPA. DARPA. Amy says, thanks everyone for praying for my friend Amy. Yes, thank you. Kevin says, I need to step away and get some dinner. Will you do that, Kevin? God bless you, sir. Thank you for being here. Angela says, weren't the angels sent to earth to serve humans, and most really didn't want to serve us because they thought they were humans were beneath them? No, that is popular mythology. That is not Bible. No, the angels are above you. They are celestial in being, and they live with God proper. They are above you. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking you're the best celestial being on earth, because you're not. I said that wrong. You're not the best being God created. Angels are celestial. They live in heaven. They're able to traverse between dimensions and appear to be anything they want to be. We can't do any of that. The one thing we have that they do not is free will. And there is nowhere in the Bible that says they don't have free will. It just doesn't specify that. And the reason that idea comes about is because there is a particular angel called a Zoe that was created that does not have free will, and it just praises God 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, saying, holy, holy, holy is thy name. Glory to God in the highest. That's all they do. That's their function. That's where the idea gets conflated. There are other kinds of angels. There are warrior class and there are messenger class angels that we know about. And there's probably tons we don't know about. They were never to serve us. They help God in his plan for us on this earth. But they're not our servants by no stretch of the imagination. They are, if anything, our saving grace. They help us a lot, but they don't serve us. Not like we're the masters and they're the slaves. They might serve us like a waitress serves you at a restaurant, but not like a slave serves you at the plantation. So they weren't sent here. They've been here the whole time. In the beginning, God created the host. That's all the angels and all the souls. That's you. You were there at the beginning too. Created at the same time as the angels, but for a different purpose. But if you read Dante, you might get some different ideas. That's a good question, though. And I'm sorry that Catholics have really screwed up the idea of angels. And so do the trinket companies that sell angels, Christmas tree ornaments and such. Not all angels have wings, by the way. And not all of them are female. In fact, I don't know of any that are female, just so you know. Every angel I've ever heard of was male. That might be why they came to Mount Hermon, because heaven was becoming a sausage factory, if you know what I'm saying. Nothing but dudes up there. Yeah, they saw women. I would have came too, maybe. That was a joke, Lord, don't strike me, I'm sorry. Amanda says, okay, Kevin, see you later. And Dan Cooper says, prayed for Amy, battling a chronic illness myself. Well, we're praying for you too, Dan. God bless you, sir. Amy says, prayers, Dan. Batshit Crazy says, what's up? What's up, Batshit? Nice to see you, my friend. Amy says, hi, Batshit Crazy. And Amanda says, hi, Batshit. And prayers, Dan. Thank you, Debbie. God bless you, sweetie. I got all kinds of beeping going on. Thank you. Aaron says, tell us about the book, Jake. What will be in it? All right. So I'm writing a book. I've made the decision yesterday, and I've already hired an illustrator, and I got another guy in mind to help with that. And what we're going to do, I'm going to write a book about the Bible, but it's going to be vignettes, not chapters. There's going to be sections of different things, one of which is going to be a section on maps. And I'm going to write paragraphs or little short synopsises of each map and why they're there and what happened and all of that stuff. And I'm going to provide the map in the book. And there's going to be like 15, 20 maps of different things that occurred during the span of the Bible's time. Also, I'm going to handle the lifespan from Adam to Noah and the people that lived in that period in time and how far they lived beyond that. And we'll talk about Methuselah and talk about all of those people. Talk about Cain and Abel. We're going to talk about the land of Nod. We're going to talk about where Cain got his wife. We're going to talk about Methuselah, why God waited until he died before the flood happened, and why Noah was a special human being. He wasn't like you and me. He had Shekinah glory, and that's in the Bible. He was a strange kid. He scared the hell out of his parents when he was born because he was shiny. A little different, that fella. But it was God's grace on him. Moses experienced the same thing when he went up into Mount Sinai to meet God. He came back shining. Same thing, right? Moses is related to Noah. They are in the same family. Jesus is related to Moses, who is related to Noah, who is related to Adam. See how that works? All one big. I'm going to talk about the bloodlines, the family lines in the Bible. I'm going to talk about the first paragraph of the Bible and its significance to the rest of it and what's being actually said there. I'll break it down into its ancient Hebrew. I'll have a chapter on ancient Hebrew so you'll know I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to do little vignettes of the book of Daniel, of the book of Revelations, the 10-headed beast with the 10 horns and the one little horn, the woman in red with the stars around her head, all of that. I'm going to illustrate what that means in a book, and I'm going to put it all together and sell it. And then I'm going to make each chapter, each vignette, I'm going to make a video or a series of videos that accompany that. So if you own the book, you can come to the channel and become a member and then go watch the video that accompanies it, which will further explain everything that's in that chapter. So it'll be a real teaching tool. And at the end of the book, I'm thinking about, and I haven't decided yet, I'm thinking about making it a teaching tool with a quiz at the end of the book that you can take and get a score on. Well, I ain't figured that all out yet, but it's got to be some way that you can retain this knowledge. So there might be a test at the end of the book. I don't know. It might be on the website. It might not be in the book. It might be on the website. I don't know yet. But, and this is going to go for the next year while I'm working on this, I need input from you guys, my members and my loyal subscribers. Tell me what you need to know. Tell me what interests you about little things that we've talked about, that we've studied, different conversations we may have had. Where is your interest at? What do I need to hone in on so that I can further dial this book into your interests? That's the whole reason I'm writing it, is for all of you. And here's the best part. All of the members of this channel is going to get a copy of that book signed when it's done. Free. I'll say that louder. Free. It didn't want to come out. All of my members are going to get a free copy. But that's what's happening. We're writing a book. So that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot over the next year because it's going to be on my mind. I've already started collecting the maps, by the way, so you'll know that's coming. And that's what started it, was the map thing, Amy. So this book is your fault. John says, I'm going to say goodnight. I'm feeling a bit sore. So much love, everyone. Bless you all, John. Get you some rest, buddy. We love you too, and God bless you. Batshit Crazy says, battle your Hastings. The Battle of Hastings, 1066. Yeah, that occurred in 1066 also. Aaron says, John, I wish you all the blessings. Feel better, man. And Amanda says, good night, John. And by the way, good night, John. Angela says, I'm thinking the wives may have been offspring of them too. Just an opinion. The wives. Are you talking about Noah and his sons' wives? No, I don't know if they were or not. I don't think they were, though, because God said one family he found no corruption in. It was a just and upright family. That would be Noah and his 3 sons. And they were married. So, there were, however, Nephilim on the ark. And the reason I know that is because of God's instructions are very clear. He said, take 2 of every flesh 7 of everything unclean and 2 of everything clean. I think that's the way he said it. I can't remember exactly how he said it. Amanda, pull that verse up and put it out for me. He's very specific, but basically he said all flesh, 2 of every flesh, and then another group of unclean flesh and another group of clean flesh. That's obviously to eat and make sacrifices with. But including in that were the flesh of the angels, because they were flesh and blood too. Not the angels, but the offspring. So they were Nephilim on the ark. That's why there'll be an influx again. Jesus said that in the end days, it'll be like in the days of Noah again, meaning there'll be an influx of fallen angels again. Might be what we're seeing in the skies. Do angels fly and craft? Yes, we covered that last week. Go watch the show. And it is in the book of Ezekiel, and it is in the book of Acts. Amy says, I lucked out today. It was $5 Friday at Kroger's and a dozen donuts for $5. That is lucky. It's a good price. Are they good donuts or are they little grainy ones? If they're good donuts, you got a deal. I got lucky today too. I found a lamp on a mic stand with a big gooseneck and one of the big shiny lamp covers for the office or for a work light so I can work on guitars. I found it sitting out by the side of the road, right beside a wheelbarrow. A brand new wheelbarrow has a broken handle on it, but I can fix that with a piece of rebar. Angle iron. I said 2 days ago, because I have a wheelbarrow, but it's from the 70s. It's all aluminum, and it's falling apart, and it's got a little thin rubber wheel on it, and it's a piece of junk. And it's only about that deep. I wanted a real wheelbarrow like the kind that they use in construction work with a 1.5 foot deep, with big rubber tire on it and big handles. And I said 2 days ago that I needed a real wheelbarrow. And today I found one laying on the side of the road. It had a big sign on it that said, "Take me," along with the work light that I needed for working on guitars. Pretty sweet. Lucky day. Thank you, Lord, for the lucky days. And Amanda says, feel better soon, John. Amy says, angel, Nephilim. Angel's not a Nephilim. Dan says, his name he used was Dan Cooper. The newspaper screwed up and put DB Cooper. Are you him? Are you he? Is he you? Are you it? Where's my $1 million? Amy says, the angels rebelled against God and came to earth, seduced women, and the offspring were Nephilim, or something like that, pretty much. There's 2 different events, though. Don't get them confused. The angels left their habitation and came to earth on their own accord. But also, before the earth, there was something else going on. Before Genesis 1:1, something else occurred, and 1/3 of God's angels rebelled and fell with Satan. That's not the same event. Those are 2 different things. Okay? Just to make it clear, the angels that came down to Mount Hermon was about 200 angels. There are thousands upon tens of thousands of angels. There's only 200 of them came to earth. So, the Hyperbole, or the overthrow, was when the rebellion happened. That's when the war in heaven occurred. That was before Genesis 1:1. After that, there was an influx of fallen angels. They left and came here on their own accord. 2 different things. Batshit Crazy says, Maccabees, very odd content. Yes, there's one of the reasons it was taken out. A lot of the books that were removed from the Bible is because it's weird. The book of Enoch is strange. Not wrong, but strange. So what's left, the only thing left in the Bible, it concerns salvation. So that became the through line of the Bible, is salvation. And that makes sense to me. If God can inspire the Word of God to be written, I have no problem with him editing it. So we didn't need to hear about all that stuff anymore. So he edited it. and became about salvation, because that's what we need to focus on now in a different dispensation of time. This is the dispensation of teaching, and the next will be the dispensation of grace. Amy says, Maccabee. One of them books that ain't in the Bible anymore. Aaron says, I'm going to read that. You should. You should. It's good. Get a solid foundation in the Bible first. You don't want to be reading stuff that isn't Bible and remembering stories that aren't in the Bible. Get your foundation solid first. Know the Bible. Then it's okay to go read any other books you want to that you can square against the Bible and see if it matches up. Bible first. Amy says, I've seen a shooting star hit the ground on investigation, discovery, true crime drama. And you're probably talking about a different kind of star. Probably. Yeah, those kind don't get back up. Aaron says, so were those the bad ones, the demons? Yes. First of all, I'm going to say something that's going to be a little bit controversial here, because the word is in the Bible. But the word demon is not in the Bible, in the original text. It is a familiar spirit. We use the word demon, and this is a hard thing to find out, but you can find it. The word demon means knowledge. It's a little bit of a reach around to get to it, but that is what it means, knowledge. We use the word demon to describe a familiar spirit because we don't have a word in English that means familiar spirit the way that it means that in Hebrew. So, what we think of as a demon mostly is Hollywood and storytelling and Greek mythology and that sort of thing. An actual demon is a fallen angel. An evil spirit is a fallen angel or the disembodied fallen angel. Angels have souls just like we do. The difference being God said, let us make man in our image, meaning you are in your image, I am in my image. Jesus was in God's image, right? Adam was in God's image. Now, that means that your soul fits your body. And when your body breaks, that soul goes back to God. An angel's soul can fit in any body. It doesn't have to have a specific body because it didn't have one to start with. All it needs is a body, which is why Jesus cast the angels that were in that guy into the herd of swine, and then they ran off the cliff and killed themselves, committing suicide. That's where the word came from. I'm not making that up. See how that works? You can't do that. You can't cast your spirit into a swine. An angel can. So, the spirits that are in the world today, they're not everywhere, but there's about 200 of them, and they wreak lots of havoc on earth. They are disembodied angels. So that's what a demon is. Hope that helps. Very astute observation there, Aaron. My man's listening. Bat says, mostly the sky streaks. Tiny meteorites that burn up like sand grains regularly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And yes, sir. Sand grains burn up in the atmosphere. That's what the streaks are that you see. They're not very big. Right. Angela says, water expands when frozen. It contracts when it is thawed, and we have oceans, seas, and lakes. And also there's convection and evaporation, which happens too. Some of that water is in the clouds. Debbie says, and by the way, there is no new water on planet Earth. You understand that? Get this in your head. Every drop of water that you have ever seen or put in your mouth has been here since the creation of it. There is no new water. Water is not created. It is the water that has always been here. The water in your bottle, the water in your commode, the water in the ocean, the water in the lake, the water in your eyes, the water in the clouds. It's the same water. That means you are 100% drinking my pee right now. 100%. Just so you know. You live with it. I have to live in this head. Debbie says, I always told my son that the bodies of water was just fish's toilets. And yours too. You're 100% drinking dinosaur pee right now. Amanda says, diatomaceous earth is crushed seashells. They're not exactly. A diatom is not a seashell. It's a little critter that's microscopic, and if enough of them pile up, it looks like sand. They look like shards of glass or little diamonds. They're kind of interesting little characters. You should look up a diatom and see what it looks like. And yes, they put seashells in diatomaceous earth, which is why you think that, but it's not completely seashells. It's mostly diatomaceous earth with seashells in it for stability. Seashells is made out of the same thing that your fingernails are made out of, keratin. I think I'm right about that. I could be wrong about that. It's made out of the same thing a barnacle's made out of. I know that. Batshit Crazy says Antarctica, prime meteorite territory. Patty says, good night, John H. Amy says, yes, Amanda. It's good for pest control. Diatomaceous earth, yes, it is. And it has a kick, too, if you snort it. And Walter says, correct, Jake. Enoch and Mary were left out, but still in the Orthodox Bibles. Many were left out. Yes, there are about 12 books that are left out of the Bible. But they're still biblical, but they were left out for a reason. And, you know, like I said, if God can inspire the word, he can edit it. So I'm all right with that. I'll just stick with the King James Version, and then I'll read the other ones for enjoyment. But the Bible is what I hold to be an authority. And I do get a lot of my information out of those books. And a lot of the connections that I make, lines that I draw to other things, come from those sources. So you know. Amy says, if I slept outside at night, I'd get covered in pollen and mosquito bites. Me too. Lots of pollen, not so much dust. The trees would be spooging on you all night. Think about that the next time you go outside and cough because you get a big mouthful of pollen. That's what that is, you know. Amanda says, correct, Amy. And Batshit Crazy says, Dead Sea, lowest point on the surface. 400 meters. Yish. YSH. You shouldn't. Why? I don't know what YSH means. Aaron says, Amanda, it makes silica until it touches water. It will kill you by giving you lung cancer. 400 meters-ish. Got it. Amy says, the seed bank. You know it. It's been in a movie or two also. Batshit Crazy says, helium caves, Texas Panhandle. Been there. Interesting. Angela says, a storm chaser is literally right beside a wide tornado right now, and it's going right for a town of 6,000. Scary. Rupture, not implode. The fish coming up from the bottom. I guess so. I've never done it, so I don't know, but I would imagine it implodes. I know if you go down, you'll implode. Maybe if you come up, it'll burst. I don't know. Walter says, okay, nothing can be destroyed. Every of matter. Where does the shooting star go It burns up in the atmosphere. Where does the ashes go? No ashes. When something is burned up completely, there are no ashes. And matter can be destroyed. Energy cannot be destroyed. Energy transfers from one place to another, but matter absolutely can be destroyed. Happens all the time. Every time you start a fire, you're destroying matter. The energy goes into the form of heat into the atmosphere, though, and then converts into something else. Linda says, ugh, I'm way too short to wrestle with a king-size duvet cover. I'm finally back. I hear you. I can't do it either. Batshit Crazy says, WD, the Earth gains mass that way very slowly. The Earth gains mass what way very slowly? I don't know if you know this or not, but the Earth is the same size it's always been. Nitrogen under pressure, says Amy. Interesting. Amy Elizabeth says, I agree, Batshit. Amanda says, oh, poor Linda. It does suck being vertically challenged. And Linda says, how are you watching it, Angela? Probably on YouTube. Would be my guess. Tornadoes where? Says Batshit Crazy. I think she's looking at North Dakota. I see somebody came back for more. Tornadoes where? Says Batshit Crazy. I think North Dakota. Debbie says, lake water ran through sand and rocks. Makes it drinking water, I think. Yeah, you can, anytime water is moving and has been for a while, you can drink it. Because it runs over sand and through sand and many different layers of stuff, and it cleans it. If you get still water, you don't want to drink that. It probably has things living in it. Angela says, they don't want us to know the Egyptians were here or what. I think they rewrote history anyway. The mud floods are proven of that for me. Well, the mud floods are part of the flood. And no, they do not want you to know the real history. Why is beyond me. The only thing I can do is speculate that they're trying to remove God from everybody. They started with academia in the 1800s. But they've been going at this rewriting history thing for a long, long time. And why they're doing it, I don't really know. But they are doing it. I've seen enough evidence to prove that things are not what they're presenting. They being the scientific communities, which incidentally all started by Christians in the old days. Every single discipline you could think of was started originally by Christians. And they were usurped by academic atheists, such as the great big origin of species guy. I can't think of his name. You know the guy. Darwin. That's the name. Darwin. And his daddy. His daddy actually came up with that idea. He just wrote the book. His daddy and his uncle. Amy says, Linda, turn it inside out and put the blanket on top and then turn it right side out by the two corners. And Walter says, the ark lies in the Arctic Circle in Canada. Oil at the very bottom of the Atlantic canyons. It's more methane than salt. Go figure. Now, that's easy. Methane is always found above oil deposits because that's what happens to oil when it off-gasses. That's methane. Oil, I did a Hyperbole episode. I think it's episode 5. Go check it out. About oil and methane and natural gas and coal. All three the same kind of thing. Different states of the same thing. It is not fossil fuels. I know they want to make you believe that, but it isn't. That makes perfect sense. They should probably dig there. Drill, baby, drill right there. Anywhere you find methane, below it you'll find oil. Lots of it. Patty says Noah's two of each kind included Kenites. Yes, they did. And Nephilim. See, people think that there was only 8 people on the ark. That's not true. There were 8 Adamic people on the ark, people from the bloodline of Adam. But there were many other people on the ark. Remember, Noah was preaching the whole time he was building the ark, trying to get people to come join him. He probably was successful at least once. He offered people to come in right up until God closed the doors. So I would imagine quite a few people were on that ark. But there were only 8 people that were righteous. And Amanda says there are trees everywhere in the Florida Everglades, and they thrive right on in water. Amy says, Amanda, they planted a tree in my husband's name in the Everglades when he died. Nice. And Angela says, Clinton, North Dakota just recorded 101 wind speeds. And Amy says, Angel, so another Clinton is blowing hard. Not on a sax this time. Nice, Amy. You are quick, honey. Patty says, I like that, Amy. And Amanda says, that's awesome, Amy. And Aaron says, I don't get this star stuff, Jake. I like the debate. Oh, no. I don't get the star stuff, Jake, like the debate we're having, but I like it. It's interesting. Well, not everybody does, Aaron, and that's quite all right. I happen to have a particular interest in stars, and I've studied them at a great deal because I'm interested in planetary science, and that's part of it. And also, I have this nagging suspicion every time I hear things like stellar nursery. You hear Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about it all the time. And I don't think anybody's ever seen a star form before. They talk about it. It's in science books, but nobody's ever witnessed that. So I questioned it. And it comes to find out, it's an interesting thing about stars. When you cover them, they go away. See that? Nobody's ever seen a star form. They just saw dust move out of the way, and they saw a star they didn't see before. You stick with me, kid. I'll make you something smart. Don't you worry about not getting into it or not understanding it. If you have any questions, you just ask, and I'll explain away. There's no such thing as a dumb person. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There are such things as dumb people. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Only dumb people. That's what I was trying to say. And you're not a dumb people, so ask away. Amy says, why plates on a stegosaurus? Why not saucers? I guess God has an affinity for larger dishware. I don't know. Or cups, right? Amy says, doesn't the government have Tesla's papers, and didn't Trump's uncle once have them? Yes. John Trump, he's the professor at MIT for the last 50 years. And yes, he received all of Nikola Tesla's work after the FBI confiscated it all and went through it. I don't know if he got all of it because nobody knows what they took, so nobody knows what they gave back. But that's where it is, yes. Angela says, LOL, Amy, that's funny, Clinton. Magic 8 Ball, says Amy. Is everything bullshit? And 8 Ball says, you better believe it. You better believe it. Amy says, how do you get the 8-ball to work, Amanda? And Amanda says, 8-ball is Amy awesome. 8-ball says, my sources say yes. Amy says, thanks, Amanda. And Amanda says, exclamation, 8-ball, all together with no spaces. Exclamation point, the number 8 and the word ball. And Amanda says, you're welcome, hon. Amy says, 8-ball is everything bullshit. And 8-ball says, my sources say yes. I think it's stuck. Amanda says, right, Amy. Angela says, tornadoes are breaking out in North Dakota right now. Batshit crazy. I'm watching it on YouTube and on my live TV. And I have a Bible with those maps. It shows me Jesus' travels and other important places. Right. I'm going to do a bunch of maps, not just that one. I'm going to do Abraham's journeys, Joshua's journeys, that sort of thing. Where the disciples went, where they set up churches at. All the letters in Thessalonians 1 and 2 and Acts and all that. I'm going to write maps and show where those letters were going and who they were going to and why. That sort of thing. I'm just going to make it more in-depth study of where everybody was at in the Bible verses that we read about. That way, if you want to, you can read the Bible and then look at the map and visualize it, see what was happening. Brings it to life in a whole nother way. Amy says, Angel in North Dakota seems a little west of Tornado Alley, praying for those affected. Right on. That's a great Bible that you got there, Angela. I have one too. Amanda says, one horn, Jake. LOL. One horn equals Jake. I might be the little horn. You never know. I might rise to power one subscriber at a time and take over the YouTube space. Or not. I'm probably not even a pimple on that ass of the guy with the little horn, but whatever. One horn equals Jake. What do you mean by that? I'm threatened all of a sudden. Angela says, yep, Amy, North Dakota. I know it's odd. The last time I was in North Dakota, it was freezing cold. Very freezing cold. Amy says, I'm interested in a book we haven't read yet, Revelations. We're getting there. I promise. It's going to be a long study, too, because there's a lot in Revelations to unpack. We got to get through Daniel first, though. Angela says, yay, a new book to read. This one will be written by me, though. And you got a JTAG, so you'll get one for free. Amy says, I need to know about the 4 horsemen. Pestilence, hunger, war, and strife. That hunger, by the way, as the Bible says, there will be a famine in the end times, but it'll be a famine for God's word, not for food. So that hunger, that 4th horseman, or 3rd horseman, might be a famine for God's word, might be the lack of Christians in the world, the lack of the teaching of the truth. Be a great famine of people that know the truth. That means only the remnant will be telling the truth. Everybody else will be lying to you. You won't be able to hear the truth no matter how much you pay for it. Unless you come here to Untethered Live. Listen to me talk, then you'll hear the truth. But I'll do a little vignette on the 4 horsemen too. I think that's a good idea because a lot of people don't understand that metaphor. Debbie says, I don't like auto payments. I am too controlling for that, but I can buy a signed copy. I hear you. Can you buy a signed copy as much as you donated to me? No. You can have one, though. Obviously, I'm going to take care of you guys. I'm not making it to sell to you. I'm talking to you about it because you're part of the inspiration for me writing it. You understand that, right? I will give you whatever I make. You guys take care of me. I'm not going to charge you for a book. Come on now. What kind of criminal do you think I am? You don't think I'd be taking advantage of you, do you? Not on your life. I'm a lot of things, but a charlatan ain't one of them. I promise. Aaron says, that's a good one, Amy. Dan Cooper says, your biggest fan is a stranger. Your biggest hater is someone you know. Isn't that interesting, Dan? My biggest fan is right beside me, blowing me as we speak. Dan says, good night. Good night, Dan. God bless you, sir. Truth already got derailed. Amy says, hi, Truth. Well, Truth, I believe I've made that exact point. There you are again, trying to teach in my study. This isn't even a Bible study night. Take your opinions of you, man, elsewhere. Join the conversation or keep your mouth shut. How about that? How often do I have to be nice to you before you realize this ain't the place to peddle that nonsense? Amy says, then I suggest you not read it, Truth. I want to read it. Angela says, okay, Jake, thank you for explaining who was all on the ark with Noah and his family. You're welcome. And Debbie says, The City of Angels was a good movie. Made me cry. Is that the one with Nicolas Cage in it? I think I know which movie you're talking about. That is a good movie. I watched a good movie last night that I hadn't seen in forever. It's called Phenomenon with John Travolta. I recommend you watch that and the movie Michael back to back as a double feature. They're both John Travolta movies, and they're both great movies. I'm going to watch Michael tonight when I go to bed. Phenomenon and Michael. Check them out. Both good movies. A little weird, but good. Amanda says, God instructed Noah to bring his family and animals onto the ark in Genesis 7:1. The verse states, and the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee I have seen righteousness before me in this generation. In other words, Noah's family was the only one righteous left in the world. Correct. Amy says, good donuts, glazed yeast, cinnamon twist, and chocolate glazed cream-filled Long Johns. Oh, I love those. Amanda says, good night, Dan. Aaron says, this guy. He just don't get it. Amanda says, truth don't start tonight. Angela says, Nephilim is a crossbreed of the, then. Yes, they are offspring of people and angels alike. So they're hybrids. That's a word that we use nowadays. Chimera is another word. You know what that means, right? A chimera. But that's absolutely correct. Amy says, suggest, recommend, instruct, pick one, Mr. Truth. Please don't be snarky again. You come across arrogant and petulant when you comment like this. Yes, words have meanings. Correct, truth. And in this room, my words are the ones that need to be heard. Aaron says, plus, he told God to have mercy on my soul. I got no room for his crap. Well, God does have mercy on your soul. You don't have to ask for that. That's why Christ died. And by the way, truth, the guy, is not the arbiter of truth, nor is he the judge or juror. So don't let him judge you. He's already judged me. I'm tough. I can handle it. But you, don't let him judge you. Plus, I work for the guy that runs everything, so I'm not worried about his judgment. My paycheck gets paid, which means I'm still in good graces. Aaron says he's on thin ice. He's about to get banned for good. You do what you got to do, buddy. Amanda, Aaron, anybody here who has a wrench, I trust you, which is why you have a wrench. I will not question your motives. You do what you feel is right. Aaron says, bye, truth. Angela says, wait, I'm confused now. Who were the 200 angels, the good ones or the rebellious ones? Who were first on earth? Okay, I'll try again. In the beginning, before the earth was created, God created the host and all that in them is. The host is all the angels, all of the beings that live in heaven, and all of the spirits which will eventually inhabit these bodies. God created all souls at the same time, angels and people alike. Now, who were the good ones or the bad ones? That's a little hard to explain because there really isn't any such thing as the good ones and the bad ones. It really is everybody's trying to get by, and some people made some mistakes and some people didn't. Now, before the earth was created, there was an overthrow in heaven. Satan, who was once an angel, got kicked out, and a third of God's angels followed him. That was before the creation of the earth. And so you could say those are the bad ones. You go many years later after the creation of earth into the land of Abraham, and slightly before Abraham. And then on Mount Hermon, about 200 angels left their habitation and came to earth. They found women to be fair and wanted to mate with them. I don't know that they're bad per se. They just wanted to touch flesh. That was a very human thing to do. So they mated and they had children. Here's the problem with that. God created this place for these souls to live. Those angels have a place in heaven. They don't belong here. So when they mated with people, they produced an offspring that was ravenous. They had appetites that could not be filled. Violence, anger, lust, hunger, you name it. They were ravenous. They had 2 rows of teeth and 6 fingers on each hand. Ravenous beasts. And they devoured the earth. And they would have devoured the whole thing if God didn't look down and decide he wanted to destroy it. So these offspring are the bad ones, not the angels. These things were alive. You understand? But they're part celestial. Remember what I told you about angel spirits? They can be in any body. They don't have to be in just one, like we do. So when God destroyed the world, he killed all of the offspring, and their spirits left the bodies. Where did they go? Well, they didn't go back to heaven, so they're still here. You can read about where they are in different places in the Bible, such as the pit or the abyss. When Christ pulled those demons legion out of the man, they didn't want to go back to the pit. They asked Christ to show them mercy and cast them into the swine instead, and Christ obliged and did so. He did not put them back in prison where they were, where they had escaped and came back to the earth. So as long as they're roaming around, they can jump in anybody they want to, as long as it's available. Which is why you should guard your temple. You know what I'm saying? If you open the door, something might come in. Does that make a little understanding? Listen, there are tens of thousands of tens and tens of thousands of angels. The number is uncountable. I don't know how many, but there's many, 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 many angels. Revelations talks about them. Tens of thousands and tens of thousands. Only 200 of them came to Mount Hermon. So, good, bad, I don't know if they were good or bad. They just did something they shouldn't have done, like many living things do. I suppose they're sinners. Nothing to be confused about, though. Amy says, macabre. What are you saying? I said the book of Maccabee. I don't know what macabre is, unless you're talking about macabre, like liking dead things. I don't know if it's spelt that way or not. Macabre. It's French, I know that. Like Les Miserables. Les Miserables. Macabre. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm moving on. Angela says, what goes up must come down. Right on. Amy says, I invited my friend Jared to Bible study. I don't know if he'll come or not, but I asked, and that's the important thing. Yes, it is, and thank you for asking. And I appreciate you doing that. That's how we get the word out, one soul at a time. That's it. We just got to keep adding to the crowd until it gets so big that we can't contain it anymore. Have to start a second channel. Hire on another pastor or something. I'm down. Threaten me, I'll open a building and start a real church. And Amanda says, that's awesome, Amy. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And Debbie says, it gives a whole new meaning to, I want to drink your bathwater. You already are. 100%. No doubting it. Amy says, Angel, what goes up must come down. That's what he said. Did I read it wrong? Nope, that's what it says. What goes up must come down. That's what he's... Oh, I got it. That's what he said. Not he. He. Ladies. Amy says, LOL Debbie. And Amanda says, LOL Debbie. And Angela says, Amy, smiley faces. And Amanda says, merely made of calcium carbonate, mainly made of calcium carbonate, a mineral also found in chalk and eggshells. This mineral is secreted by the mollusk mantle. It's a part of its body, and it hardens into layers that form the shell. Right. That's what seashells are made out of. Okay, my bad. Not made out of keratin. See, I'm wrong sometimes. Thank you for pointing it out. Amanda says, the shell grows as the mollusk grows with new layers added on the edges. Yes, I did know that. I didn't know about the calcium thing, though. Calcium carbonate mineral. Angela says, Poor Valley City in North Dakota is in line for another tornado. It literally, they literally are going through one another. They're literally going through one, and another one is coming. Right. It's going to be a bad night in North Dakota. Amy says, Are you using the last of the Old Spice? Debbie's joke about bathwater. That's hilarious. I need to read faster. It keeps growing and growing and growing. Cosmo, what's up, buddy? What's the number? 11:28. Here we are. Angela says, speaking of changing history, what do you think about the Mandela effect? I think that we have shitty memories and that we didn't read very well in the old days. And also, you know that the government lies to you, right? And also, you know that they will tell you things that aren't true and then call you a conspiracy theorist for thinking about it, right? You do know those things exist. So when they tell you that you remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison, 100% you heard something about that on the news at some point because that's what they wanted you to think. I'm torn. I kind of think I fell into an alternate reality in 2006 and everything changed visibly so. And that would play into the Mandela effect. But I also think it's a bunch of hooey and people just don't remember very well. Cosmo, what's up, my cuz? He says, someone is chilling and streaming kind of late. Hey, y'all. Well, my chat got bigger. Takes me longer to get to the bottom. How you doing, Cosmo? Nice to see you. Amanda says hi. Cosmo says hi. And Amanda says, we party, Cosmo. We partying. We getting down. I'm sweating like a pig and I got to pee, but I'm here rocking it out to the bitter end. Working for that money. Amy says, Cosmo is a beautiful flower. I have some. Nice. Also is a nice drink to spike. Cosmo says, I've been up since 3 a.m., but I had to stop in when I saw you online. Well, it's only 11:45, or 11:54, rather. Go to bed. But thank you for dropping in. Cosmo smiles, and Amanda says, awesome, Cosmo, thanks. Jake is a bit behind, so he may not get to you unless you stick around a bit. I'm here. Cosmo says, I figured as much. I don't know if I can stay awake much longer. Can't hold on much longer. Cliffhanger. Amy says, Angela, they're trying to change our memories currently. Stuff we see with our own eyes, mostly peaceful protests. Dudes look like ladies. AI pretending to be God. Rewriting history. Yes, all of the above. I really think that's what the Mandela effect is about. Because I'm pretty sure it said Berenstain Bears. We just read it Berenstein because we're rednecks and nobody corrected us. Amanda says, well, at least he will know you were here. Right on. Aaron says, where, Amy? In the Everglades is the tree. I go to the Everglades. Nice. Debbie says, Jake only needs one horn, Amanda. One eye, one horn, one leg, flying purple people eater. One horn equals Jake is horny. Aaron says, oh, Jake is tired. Wore out. Patty says, thank you, Miss Amanda and Jake. Good show and good night. Patty, God bless you, sweetheart. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a good, peaceful rest, and we'll see you next time. Politics on Saturday night right here on Untethered Live. Hit that like button, everybody. 9 people are like. Now it's finally 12. Whew. Amanda says, LOL, right, Debbie? 1 is plenty to deal with. Yeah, if I had 2, I'd just be dangerous. Amy says, Aaron, the letter said it was planted in the Everglade Preservation Forest. And Amanda says, I'm not blowing you, fan. No, the fan is blowing me. I said my biggest fan was right beside me and it was currently blowing me, and it is. Debbie says, I'm sorry, Jake. I didn't mean to offend you, and I would never expect something for free. You did not offend me at all, and it'd be my pleasure to give it to you for free. That's the reason I work, is for you. I consider you having a J-tag, even though you hadn't got one, because you've been so kind to me. But that's the reason I do what I do, is for you guys, the people that are trying to be part of what I'm doing, the people that are trying to learn what I have to give, not the people that are running their mouths and thinking they know everything and not even glancing to notice that I do know what I'm talking about, and this dick just coming out of the back of my head, you know. Those people, that's why I'm working so hard, is to get something for you, to leave on this earth for you. Absolutely. It's not an offense at all. I give you my song, you know. I don't charge you for that. Amy says, I have my fan blowing on me. Right on. Angela says, Amy. Aaron says, that's cool, Amy. Amy says, Debbie, you have my friendship for free. Mine too. Kissy face. Debbie says, Nicolas Cage, yes, City of Angels. Yeah, that is a good movie. A little depressing, but it's a good movie. Debbie says, I've seen both those John Travolta movies. Both are good. They are good. Angela says, strange, I watched those two movies back-to-back years ago when they came out, and I loved them both. Me too. I think they might have came out as a double bill, to come to think of it. They seem like they came out at the same time, or I discovered them at the same time many, many, many years ago. And Angela says, no, I don't know what a chimera is, but are there still offspring here now? Yes. A chimera is a hybrid, a cross between two things, right? Like the spider goat. Remember that? That goat that they crossbred with the DNA of a spider, and now they get like spider webs out of its milk? That's a chimera. That's not a God-made animal. That's a man-made animal. The one thing that's abundantly clear when man makes animal, it is missing something important, always, because they're not God. All they're proving is that it takes intelligence to create life, and they're not intelligent. Amanda says, Jake might as well just go on and ban him completely. Well, you do what you got to do. Debbie says, is Truth's comments being deleted? Because I cannot see them, and I am on live chat. If not deleted, Truth, did you block me? No, he's being blocked because he's running his mouth. Huh? Well, yeah, he's being blocked because he's running his mouth and not here in good faith. He's one of those, like every now and then you'll see somebody come in and say something that seems genuine, and then I'll snap at them, and you wonder why I'm doing that. It's because they're not here in good faith. They're trying to play a game. They're not actually interested in learning anything or actually furthering their own education or mine. They're here to catch somebody or prove something to somebody, and I don't need that, and neither do you. Amy says, I want to see the new movie from Angel Studios, an animated story of Jesus. Uma Thurman does the voice. Uma Thurman does the voice of Mary Magdalene. Interesting. Yeah, well, they put out some good movies here lately. Maybe that'll be a good one. I don't know. And Amanda says, no, Debbie, he was deleted. Amy says, Debbie, when they're timed out, YouTube deletes the comments. Angela says, I want to see the movie about Beverly Ann Williams. I don't know who that is. I don't think I know who that is. I might. Beverly Ann Williams. Bevelyn Williams. I don't know who that is. Amy says, there's a movie about Bevelyn Beatty Williams. That sounds more familiar. That's a person who killed somebody? I don't know who that is. I might be thinking of the axe murder girl. Amy says, Ravenous. Sounds like a modern day liberals. Ravenous? I haven't seen that. Amanda says, right, Amy. Open the door. Black magic. Psychic. Etc. Yeah, oh yeah. If you open the door, something might come in. A good way to do that would be play with a Ouija board, or go read tarot cards, or get involved in black magic, or practice the dark arts without knowing what you're doing, or Wiccan. These are all good ways to open the door, or believing things that aren't true, that you have no evidence to back up. If you're too gullible, you can be tricked into anything. It jumped again. What's the number? I found it. Aaron says, I'm getting sleepy, but I'm holding on. Me too, Aaron. I got to pee too. Amy says, I had shirts with the basket on the cornucopia. You had a shirt with a cornucopia on it? Interesting. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying there. Are you talking about the fruit of... Oh, you're talking about the Fruit of the Looms conspiracy. Yeah. A lot of people seem to think that, but I've seen I make T-shirts. They all just have, like, weird fruit on it. It's not even good fruit. It's like a beet and a radish and something else. I can't remember. It's weird. I remember grapes. Amanda says, well, he's getting there, Aaron, but go to bed if you need to, buddy. Right on. Angela says, Amy, my sunflowers are up to my neck now. They are so cute. That's beautiful. You should take a picture and send it to us. UntetheredLivestream@gmail.com, right here on the... Amy says, nice, Angel. I planted mostly veggies this year. Cool. Angela says, Debbie, I didn't see Truth's comments either. That's because they kicked him out as soon as he appeared because he was running his mouth. Aaron says, I kicked him. There you go. Amy says, my heirloom lilies are getting that tall, Angel. And trying not to comment so Jake reaches the end. It may never happen. Amanda says, not true. I'm your number one fan. I didn't say my number one fan. I said my closest fan is closer to me than you are. Amy says, isn't there a way to gift Debbie a JTAG? Yes, but I can't control it. You can gift, but YouTube decides who it goes to. I have no way to point it at somebody. I don't know how that works. Amanda says, yep, she can do it and not have it on autopay. Yeah, you could do it and just do it month to month, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's not a requirement. I'm just telling you that when I start creating other content like books and music and things like that, it's going to be on the member section because, I've got to eat. You understand that. I do plenty for free. What I make that I pour sweat and tears into has got to be on the member section. But you don't have to be a member. You'll get everything I'm going to give for free right here. Anything that's going in that book we've already discussed 1,000 times on this channel for free. It's just going to be put into a written form. If you want to be a member, you can be. If you don't want to be, you don't have to be. Amanda says, nope, we can't pick who we gift a membership to. It picks at random. Yeah, I've looked into it a little bit, and it doesn't seem to be a way I can do it. It might pick her at random. It's like shooting craps, you know. I don't know. Angela says, whether I agree with things you say or not, I like to know what layers of truth you have received from God. I told know what God has revealed to you, and I want to hear it. All right. Well, you don't have to agree with me. That's a personal choice. I mean, it seems like people don't understand that when you have a camera pointed at your face and a microphone in your mouth, that you're going to say things that you think are true, or whatever kind of narrative you're pushing. In my case, it's the truth. And I'm going to say lots of things that are in my head. You might not believe me. You might not agree with me. You might think something completely different. That's fine. But look into it. If you find out I'm right, if that happens enough time, you'll stop not agreeing with me. If you get mad every time I say something that you don't agree with and start a fight with me, that just tells me you're closed-minded and don't want to learn anything. You got blinders on. Sometimes that happens. I like it much better the way you put it. I don't have to agree with you. I want to hear what you got to say. Well, you will if you hang out long enough. And I promise you, if you hang out with me long enough, you'll get tired of looking up things and finding out I'm right. And then you'll just say, okay, he's right. I'm not right 100% of the time. I make mistakes. I made one tonight. Seashells are not made out of keratin. That just came off the top of my head. I don't know everything. I know a lot. I don't know everything. I'm not trying to know everything. I'm an authority on the Bible. And people want to question me all the time. You'll find out I'm right. When you do, you can stop questioning me. But I encourage you to question me. That's how you find out I'm right. Amy says, oh, okay. Spider Pig, doing whatever a Spider Pig does. Homer Simpson spider song. Aaron says, thank you, Jake. Aaron, thank you, buddy. God bless you, sir. Get you some rest. Amy says, make a note, Jake. Look her up. Beverly Ann Williams arrested at PP for preaching. Oh, Planned Parenthood. I know who you're talking about now. I have heard that. I did not know that was her name, but I know the story. Debbie says, Amy, that is sweet of you for asking, but it is okay. I don't deserve one. Those are for people that joined, and I didn't do that. Well, that's up to you, Deb. I like having you here. It's up to you if you want to get yourself a J-tag or not. That's entirely yours. Amanda says, tie it in a knot, Jake. I did. That's why I'm still sitting here. My back teeth are floating, though, literally. Angela says she is a pro-life advocate. And Jake, she's the one that got stabbed on Election Day in D.C. She painted over the BLM Plaza and got arrested for protesting at an abortion clinic and got hit with federal charges right after. That's good that they're making a movie. I hope they're honest when they make that movie. And they overturned Roe v. Wade. Nice. And Angela says, and they don't have flowers yet. And I'm wondering how tall they will get. You mean the sunflower seeds? Sunflowers? They'll get pretty big. Amy says, everyone leave but Debbie, and then it'll be a gift to her. Please don't do that. I need the numbers. You being here is just as important. It's not necessary for you to be a member, and as of yet, and it is a long time coming, there's not a lot in the member section. I don't put a lot there on purpose. It's because I don't want to sell anything that I'm not giving away for free. Because I'm here to teach God's word, and that shouldn't be behind a paywall. However, if I start writing books and making TV shows and stuff like that, it's got to be behind the paywall. But If I'm just doing this, I'll do it for free. Amanda says, LOL, Amy, I used to question and check most of what Jake told me a couple of years back. The more I checked him, the more he was right. So I quit checking. That does happen if you're actually being open-minded. And Angela says, just because I don't agree does not mean I disagree. It just means it is not a concept I have thought about yet. Well, I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of people that will not admit that they haven't thought about it yet. They'll just take a stance having not thought about it. That's the thing I fight a lot. I'm glad that you can see that. That's wisdom right there. There's a lot of things I haven't thought about too. And I try not to argue about those things because I really don't know what I'm talking about. I agree with you. I know what you're saying. Angela says, well thought about yet. Anyway, right. It takes time to think out certain things. You got to mull it over and get all the angles and really analyze it to know what you're talking about. You're right. Aaron says, I'm here to the end. He's a true blue ride or die fella right there. God bless you, sir. Amy says, good night, everyone. See you tomorrow night. Go pee, Jake. Amy, I love you. Thank you for being here. See you tomorrow night. Angela says, Beverly Ann was right there while they filmed it, and her daughter, Ellie, played her daughter in the movie. Nice. And Amanda says, good night, Amy. All right, that's the end. I'm going to bed. First, I'm going to pee, and then I'm going to bed. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great night. See you tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.